Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 5 and episode, let's take a little look over here, 891 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada, always 100% Canadian. And I can't point to my Canada cup today because it's in the dishwasher. Today we have the Beaver cup, which is actually quite fitting because I see in the chat here that it is a birthday here. In Oregon, a fellow beaver of ours, Mr. Filbert. Although here it says Groundhog Day, Oregon's Filbert the Beaver. So is it a beaver or is it a groundhog? But apparently Filbert the Beaver turns 15 today. So happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Filbert. Happy birthday to you. From one beaver to another. May the next year be rather beaverific, my friend. There you go. You have to celebrate the beaver. You just have to. Oh, I just saw the neighbor's kitty cat. That's at the corner of my window. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A, and not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Kids and cubs, how is your mental health today? I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm kind of a neutral day, I guess. Yesterday had a good day. Nothing spectacularly good, nothing spectacularly bad. But the day before was a rather great day. So it would be hard to have 2 days in a row like that to compare. But had made some time for my beaver sweetie before he went off to choir practice, and we went out and shared a meal, and that was nice to have some quality time together. Of course, he's in the process of marking and invigilating exams, so he's very busy at the moment. So I try to squeeze in whatever little bit of time I can when I can. So yesterday it was dinner, and it was very, very nice. And then I came home and I watched the PWHL game to see if the Ottawa Charge was going to make it into the playoffs. And I have to issue a gentle correction on myself because yesterday I said if Ottawa gets just 1 point, they would lock it up. But of course, silly me, because I'm old and remember a time when it was 2 points for a win rather than 3. I did the calculation based on 2 points for a win, and I was wrong, of course. My starting premise was incorrect, so therefore my conclusion was necessarily incorrect. Logic 101. The Ottawa Charge did win the game, but they won it in overtime, which means they only got 2 points instead of three, which means they are 3 points ahead of the Toronto Scepters, which means you think that that would have locked up the playoff spot, except for the fact that being exactly 3 points away means that the last match of the season, which is against the Toronto Scepters, if the Toronto Scepters win it, well, then they're tied in points. And it seems that in the season head to head, the Toronto Scepters actually have the advantage. So the Ottawa Charge, well, technically a must win game, one would say, if you want to have the fate in your own hands. But so long as you get to overtime, at least. Um, so long as the Charge gets to overtime, well, at least then they will be in. So it goes down to the last match of the season. PWHL. Ah, so much tension. Um, but yes, that's what's going on here in Edmonton. Unfortunately, the Oilers lost to Anaheim, so the series is tied 1-1. And tonight, for those of you who are following playoff action, the Senators are back at it again, I believe, at 7:30, and the Raptors are back at it at 8 p.m. Both times Eastern. Both of those in Game Three, and both with the Canadian team, the home team, down uh, zero win. Well, down 2 games, 2 games to zero. So hopefully that will get better. And for those who are following the World under 18 hockey championships, Canada lost to Slovakia 2-1 in their first match, and take on Latvia today. But it was a win. So that added to my night, and I felt good about that. And but and I don't have anything exceptionally exciting on the menu today. So a nice day to get ahead on a few things, hopefully, and be productive. So I'm in a good mood. But yeah, I guess neutral. I'm coasting. I'm trying. I'm on a good beaver sweetie duty, trying to be of assistance to my beaver sweetie when he requires it. Given that he basically the whole dining room table is cleared and it's stacked full of papers, and there's a pile for this and a pile for that and a pile for this, and they all have to be corrected by the 27th. And I don't know what they were doing in that exam. I hope that the questions were long and the answers were short, because there's a lot of pages. That's all I'm saying. There's a lot of pages. It's been a while since I've been in university, so I can't remember if my exams were that thick. But I was looking at those and I said, "Gee, that's impressive." So, but only from the amount of thickness. I haven't checked anything out on the papers to see how much of it was, was it like a, a two-line question on the top, and then they have to write like the rest of it's a whole essay answer, or whether or not, it's because we're dealing in the sciences. There's a whole page of formulas and stuff like that, and then six multiple choice questions at the end or something, right? But it looked impressive. It looked impressive. So I assume that he has a lot of work to do. Uh, so yeah, feeling good. Hope you are too. Because the world around us is a little absurd, and we'll get into that in a couple of minutes. But I did want to give you a couple of updates on some stories we had been talking about before, and because there've been some little developments. A couple of days ago, we talked to you about some flooding going on here, um, some in Manitoba, and a lot in Ontario and Quebec. The Gatineau area, we were told at the time, was hit particularly hard, but there was also some stuff going on in northern Ontario. Um, there are some images of what we were like in the Ottawa area, and hopefully I'll be able to get them up here for you. But it seems that kits and cubs things are particularly um, so this is stuff in the Ottawa area how things were, but things got particularly uh, um, dangerous in the Sudbury area. And particularly in Gatineau, there was also the Fort Coulange area where the water was rising at one point on the day that we brought you the story, and was rising at a rate of 1 centimeter per hour, according to the mayor there. But things have crested there. But this was published 2 days ago in the Sudbury Star. This is Jim Moody. The city has declared a state of emergency around its spring flooding situation, which officials described Tuesday as unprecedented in severity. Quote, over the weekend, we saw the Whitson River come up in Chelmsford, specifically in the Belanger Street neighborhood, said Carl Jorgensen, manager of Conservation Sudbury, at a press conference. There is a monitoring station just north of the bridge on Main Street, and we can confirm at this time that the flows in the Whitson River at that location exceed both the 100-year flood and the Timmins flood. That's pretty extraordinary there. I'll bring down these images. So yeah, you can see what it was like in Ottawa there. A 100-year flood refers to a high water level that is extremely rare given just a 1% chance of occurring in any given year. The Timmins flood, which occurred in 1961, is a legendary event that caused widespread damage and claimed several lives. Jorgensen said the Vermilion River has also surpassed the 100-year benchmark based on water data collected at Centennial Park, and the Wabagashik Dam is on track to exceed the Timmins flood in a couple of days. While cool, dry weather over the past few days have eased the pace of flooding in Greater Sudbury, the worst of it could be yet to come. Quote, there's a significant amount of snow still to the north, said Jorgensen. It means we'll probably be seeing rivers continue to rise for another 2 to 3 weeks. And here in the story, hopefully I can get this, we have an image of a house on McCharles Lake Road in Naughton that was surrounded by water on Tuesday. Let's see if I can get that here for you. There we go. So that's where the water was already. And the worst may be yet to come, apparently. Yikes, as we say. Areas of particular concern include the properties around McCharles, Simon, and Mud Lakes, where the outflow from the Vermilion can actually, quote, push Junction Creek backwards, said Jorgensen, as well as neighborhoods in Dowling, Chelmsford, and Val-Caron. The Flake subdivision in the latter has already seen some inundation, and officials are keeping a close eye on the stretch of Desmarais Road north of the bridge. The Vermilion's lower reaches around Panache Lake Road and Grassy Lake Road are also problematic, said Jorgensen, and the Wanapitei River could become an issue too. Ontario Power Generation, has done a good job so far of holding back water through its dam on the Wanapitei, he said, but the lake, huge and deep as it may be, is not limitless in its capacity to act as a flood reservoir. Mayor Paul Lefebvre said the municipality is declaring a state of emergency, quote, out of an abundance of caution, as it will allow the city to marshal resources more efficiently should the situation get worse. Quote, it ensures we are ready in the event that localized evacuations become necessary, he said. It allows us to mobilize the right resources and supports quickly to help residents leave their homes safely. It also strengthens our ability to coordinate volunteers. Many community members have already come forward to help with sandbagging, he noted, and he expects that spirit of neighborly assistance will continue. Municipal workers have not been used to deliver sandbags since the city amalgamated with its outlying communities, he said, but they are making sand and bags available at no cost, and public works staff have been busy pitching in on a variety of fronts. He pointed to an effort Monday to prevent sewage from backing up into homes on Belanger Street as one example. Quote, our crews have been working nonstop, pumping out water, maintaining infrastructure, he said. Our roads crew is also out there doing potholes. Volunteer firefighters have also pitched in on sandbags, noted Fire Chief Rob Grimwood, and other crew members are going door to door in affected areas to ensure people are safe. We're checking in on people, trying to identify anyone who might be considered vulnerable because of complex medical needs, and then help them make decisions on leaving the current flood conditions, he said. Grimwood said no one has been swept away in a raging river so far or had to be plucked from the roof of a home, although firefighters were summoned in the wee hours Tuesday to rescue two people from a vehicle that got stuck in a Hanmer area road with water above its doors. Yikes. They reported they were trapped inside the car and we used an inflatable rescue craft to move them into safety, he said. The water was high enough that if they opened the doors, the car would fill with water. That must have been scary as oh my God. Ooh, gee, that's the stuff of horror film nightmares. Grimwood said it's a reminder to respect signage and not attempt to drive through flooded areas, as well as use common sense by keeping a safe distance from swollen waterways. People have a lot of curiosity about the flooding, so they are moving towards it, he said. The reality is we need them to move away from it. So yes, if you are affected in such an area and you have some flooding, please do not go towards the flood. There's an update here from CBC as of 43 minutes ago. It says that both the Ministry of Natural Resources and Conservation Sudbury have extended flood warnings for the area. Across the Northeast, conservation authorities and the MNR continue to have flood warnings or watches in place. Public Health Sudbury and Districts is offering advice to those who may experience flooding. In a release, the health unit offers the following tips. 1. Contact your insurance company. 2. Do not go into flooded basements or rooms where electrical panels or fixtures may be affected by water. Do not attempt to shut off electricity if any water is present. Not president. Avoid direct contact with floodwaters when possible. If you come into contact with flood, wash exposed skin with soap and water for at least 30 seconds. Keep children and pets safe from flooded areas and waterways like creeks and culverts. If a food storage area is flooded, only undamaged commercially prepared foods in sealed, unopened, airtight, waterproof cans, jars, or waterproof pouches are entirely safe to use. These cans, jars, or pouches must be carefully inspected, cleaned, and disinfected before use. Gee, if any water is present, I wonder what I had on my mind. Several municipalities in northeastern Ontario have declared a state of emergency due to flooding. Several secondary highways and local roads are closed as a result. Ontario's 511 reported several closures as of Thursday morning, including Buys Side Road in Goulet River, Witchery Road in Goulet River, Bellevue Valley Road in Kirby's Corner, Highway 638 between Highway 670 and Poplardale Road in Bruce Mines, Highway 810 between Whiskey Lake Road in Massey and Ritchie Falls, Elliott Lake, Highway 553 between Massicot Road and Tertiary Road, Highway 607 between Highway 64 and 69, Highway 805 River Valley, Highway 7044 at Highway 144, Highway 64 between Highways 17 and 539, and Highway 533 between Highways 656 and 63. In the city of Greater Sudbury, several roads are closed as well. Wow, there's a lot of them. I'm not going to read them all. That's a lot. Flood warnings and watches issued by the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources and local conservation authorities continue to be in place. And here, there's sort of a map here from flood. I'm gonna guess, not sure who's issued this. Source Government of Ontario for this map here. And I'm gonna put it up so that you can see it here, damn fam. It's just going to take me a little second. I think I need to replace it from the time before. There we go. And there it should be. So you should see on your screen. Nope, not yet. Let's try that one more time. There we go. In this map, everything that is in pink. So, I mean, this is a good, a fairly sizable chunk of Ontario where a decent amount of people live, and everything that you have in pink is flood warning, and then everything yellow is a flood watch. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, flood watch is maybe a little lower risk. I actually don't know, to be totally honest. I'm trying to think intuitively whether a warning or a watch. Maybe watch is higher risk, uh, because a warning is it might happen, and watch is like it's getting close. But I don't know. I don't. You know what? I have to find out now. I'm curious. Which is the higher risk, flood watch or warning? Flood warning, flood watch is be prepared. Flood warning is take action. Okay, so my first instinct was right. So wherever is in pink is where uh, people are encouraged to take some immediate action to protect either life and property. And flood watch is, have your bag ready to leave at any given time. Um, so that's what's going on with that. So yeah, the just a little update on the flood situation here that we had for you. The other one, was there another one? I'm just gonna check my notes here just to be sure. Uh, I think that was the only one I had. Just gonna check here, just be absolutely sure because once I get going, uh, I'm gonna be on a roll. Oh, by the way, we forgot it, but to mention it, but on Tuesday, uh, if she were still with us, it would have been Queen Elizabeth II's 100th birthday. So how about that? Okay. Yeah, I think I got everything. So let's get into the meat of the subject here, kits and cubs. Um, as you know, um, we are in a little situation with our neighbor to the south, the United States, when it comes to trade. They have been slapping some tariffs on us. Well, they've been slapping some tariffs on the world, actually. And as you know, the Supreme Court in the United States had deemed that a certain number of those tariffs uh, were unconstitutional. Now, Trump has invoked a ton of tariffs under a whole bunch of rationales. And some he has the right to do, um, and others he did not have the right to do. And all the tariffs that he had imposed under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or the IEEPA tariffs as they were called, those were doomed unconstitutional. And the United States has had to um, reimburse. And they recently opened up a portal, I think a couple of days ago, to allow certain businesses to apply to get some of their money back. And we're talking about $166 billion or so in tariffs that were collected, plus interest, of course, on those. Um, Individuals yet are not able to do that, to claim them. It seems that there will be a portal for that coming. Uh, but yeah, that money does need to be reimbursed, and it seems that that's starting. So the tariff thing hasn't gone extremely well for him overall. Plus, it's contributing to inflation, plus, and it's creating a whole mood in the United States at the moment where his approval ratings are not necessarily the best with the people. He's not actually the most popular guy. And since, well, Trump's self image and his very fragile ego depends a lot on everybody loves Trump, uh, he's not in the happiest of moods. Let's put it that way. Uh, these days. Um, so yeah, he's had a certain number of what he calls deals that he claims to have signed. A lot of people with whom he signed those deals have claimed that the terms that he has claimed those deals are have nothing to do with what it is that he has put out, which is kind of, or what it is they've agreed to, I should say, which is kind of interesting. Um, the two deals he seemed to really have, I believe one of them was with the EU and one of them might have been with Japan. The EU is not ratifying it at the moment based on everything that he has done since. So he doesn't really have that one. Um, he claims that he's signing all these deals and all this kind of stuff. And throughout this entire exercise, some countries who did sign some early deals um, learned, as Canada did after signing CUSMA, that, well, the deal didn't really mean anything, to be totally honest. Um, because it's not worth the paper it's written on. The signature is worth nothing because the terms of the deal can change on a whim, even if you do sign something. Um, so it became very clear that it's about everybody else making concessions, and whether the United States determines uh, that they're going to live up to the deal doesn't depend on their signature and their word and how honorable they are, but depends on how nice you are to Donald every single time he interacts with you or asks something from you after you've signed the deal. The deal doesn't mean that the negotiating is over. The deal just means, in Donald Trump world, that once you've signed, you have basically put yourself in a supplicant position, and after you've given a finger. It's perfectly normal for him to come up and ask you to give the whole hand, and for him to then be personally insulted if you choose to balk or take offense at the suggestion that he might need your hand better than you do or more. Um, but that's the type of thing that we are dealing with this guy. Um, so yeah, it seems that custom officials have set up an online process to streamline the requests without having to go through lengthy court processes, although some of the more complicated requests will be dealt with in later phases of the program. This is for the refunds on the IEAA tariffs. Refunds are expected to be made within 60 to 90 days. So we'll see how that works out. Um, then, of course, we've had Trump did do what he was trying to do with Greenland and trying to do what he was doing in Venezuela, and somewhere along there, there was the Davos speech that. Oh yeah, there was the meeting in the Oval Office where Carney handled Trump very well, but then there was the whole Davos speech where, if you remember, you had Trump come to a mic a couple of days later and say, your Prime Minister doesn't sound so grateful. She should be grateful, right? And somewhere in that whole mess, it seems that around October or so, or maybe around the World Series, it seems that we were really, really close at getting reduction on the sectoral tariffs because we had the IEAA tariffs and then we had the sectoral tariffs. And the sectoral tariffs are the ones that nobody's taken to court yet. And those are the ones that have hit our lumber and aluminium and steel industries and the auto industry and all that kind of stuff. And all the other sectors. He tried like to get kitchen cabinets at one time or something like that, or cabinetry. Um, those ones remain, and we were very close to having a deal. And it seems that, and it seems to be confirmed by multiple sources, that there was indeed something in the works that they were about to announce. And Doug Ford going rogue did indeed screw it all up. So it seems to be confirmed by every source all around you rather unanimously that the tariff situation currently, right now, today, is more severe than it could have been if one assumes we would have gotten to that deal and that deal would have applied without somebody changing the terms of it unilaterally between then and now. That's a lot of ifs, but assuming that, we would be in a better situation today than we actually are were it not for Doug Ford. And that seems to be being confirmed by both sides. Um, and the United States walked away from the table at that point. And the United States has not come back to the table since that point, um, which is fine, right? That's their choice. Back home, however, for some reason, that appears to have been interpreted, at least among conservative circles and the conservative punditry, as uh, we somehow are not doing what needs to be done in order to get this trade deal with the United States. Again, trade deal that a year into this, many of us have concluded, what's the point really anyway? Because what will it mean? So there's been a public mood where we've gone from get to the table as fast as possible and hammer out a deal as fast as humanly possible, let's say by about July 21st, let's say of last year, because it's in the interest of everybody, including the United States, to get these things ironed out really quickly so that we can go back to business as usual. Because we like stability and predictability, and this is instability. The quicker we can get rid of the instability, the better. That's always the best option if we can do it through some, very intense negotiations over a period of a week or two or a month, and just get the differences hammered out, and then just go back to our regularly scheduled lives. That would be best for everyone. Those were the intentions. Somebody didn't want that to happen. So here we are. Someone walked away from the table around the time of the World Series and never came back. If this is taking a long time, it's not our fault. We did our preparatory work. We have our team. We're ready to sit across the table and talk. They're the ones who got their fifis hurt because someone dug up the ghost of Ronald Reagan and had him say things. Didn't have to say things. So dug up the ghost of Ronald Reagan saying things that don't line up with what Trump wants Americans to believe. And there's a significant segment of the conservative Republican voting base in the United States who still remember and have a lot of respect for Ronald Reagan. And since there's only room for one star in Trump's sky and there's only room for one message, we can't have Ronald Reagan saying Trump is wrong, even from the beyond. Now, can we? Because Trump is never wrong, right? He knows more than anybody about anything, right? Very, very fragile ego. Takes a lot of work to maintain it. So we have all this situation going on, and the conservatives on their end have not been particularly helpful because if you remember, before he was asked, not asked, but pushed out the door, former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had a meeting where he asked all leaders of opposition parties to come together and work their contact lists. And Pierre PoiliOVER decided not to do that, which created a situation that we saw recently when he did his U.S. tour of him not being able to go to Washington, D.C. because, according to reports, his campaign had been as insular when it comes to making international contacts as it was domestically in terms of making contacts with provincial progressive conservative parties. And therefore, nobody really knew anything about him other than he was the guy who lost, who did that apple munching video. Um, and then his U.S. trip went about as well as anybody expected it would, of course, as a result. Um, During that trip, the conservatives seemed to indicate that they were going to turn over a new leaf and present a more collaborative um, approach. But in the meantime, um, or in the in between time, the leader of the opposition lost another MP to a floor crossing, and then we had three by elections in which the conservative vote cratered, and Canadians confirmed that yes, indeed, they were voting for a majority. They didn't vote for a majority a year ago. Of course, we're not asked whether or not we want a majority or minority, but the way that the chips fell after we each voted for our respective MPs and elected a parliament or elected a House of Commons, it ended up with the Liberals having a very strong minority. 1 year later, four Conservative MPs voted non confidence in their own leader and used their right as a person who was selected by constituents to represent those constituents while occupying that seat to decide that their constituents would be better served under the banner of another party. And they voted with their legs and they crossed that aisle. They took the long, 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 long walk across the aisle. Canadians in three ridings were asked whether or not uh, we should be giving the Liberals a majority this time. Of course, they're not voted on that, but that was the context it was taking place in. And yeah, they did that. And the leader of the opposition didn't come out and campaign for any of his three candidates. He abandoned them because the vote cratered. And I guess the leader of opposition did not want to have any video or audio of him on that night or throughout that campaign associated with that entire effort. So he just let his team twist because that's the kind of stand up for Canada, negotiate from a position of strength person that he is when push comes to shove, when it counts, like when there's an actual election on the line. He didn't show up for them. And now you have him um, emerging from that after also a special by election held just for him so he can regain his seat after he lost it, and then a leadership review that he had to kind of handpick the delegates for to create the impression. He had 87% support, which really seems like 57% support if you ask actual conservative voters, according to Angus Reid at least. Decides that his big move is to go on a campaign and try to suggest, hilariously, uh, because the proposition is ridiculous on its face, that we should all believe that Prime Minister Mark Carney is terrible at his job in terms of being a risk manager, investment banker, all that good stuff, an economist, and is badly educated after having gone to Harvard and Oxford. Badly educated in economics. And again, when we compare the educational backgrounds and resumes and accomplishments of both, um, one's list is so astoundingly thin. One would wonder why it is they would wish to enter a political butt kicking contest when they have not even one leg. But he did. And he got laughed at and mocked. People are now viewing him as a childish and petulant. And then, yes, or a couple days ago, uh, in some kind of weird tension attention seeking move um, while he was in the Parliament buildings, walked up the stairs to the area of the buildings in which the Liberals usually have their meetings. I don't know if he was planning to put his. I don't know if he had a glass of water with him or something like that that he was going to finish drinking, put the glass against the door, and see if he could hear something, or why he was deciding to hang out in that neighborhood. Not that he's not allowed in that neighborhood. It's just very strange that he would be there when media happened to be gathered there at the time in order to interview people that would be coming out of the meeting room. He comes around the corner and says, "Oh my God, this media all for me? Really? Well, sure, I'll be happy to take a few questions." This is a guy that hasn't had any trouble getting media attention. In fact, this is a guy that has actually shunned media attention by refusing to do certain types of interviews, which, of course, again, David Cochrane from Power and Politics seems to indicate will be his strategy going forward, because certainly making himself more available hasn't worked out for him now, has it? As public opinion polling shows that if an election were held today, his party would pick up fewer than 100 seats. But yes, shows up there, takes those questions from the media, gets himself a little extra scrum as he's walking away. As we showed you yesterday, media was out there thinking out loud among each other. That was weird, right? And then this little gem here that I stumbled upon yesterday after the show is Finance Minister François Philippe Champagne being asked about this. And this is in French. So for those of you who don't understand French, you don't need to understand the words. I will tell you what he said. Just look at the expression and the tone of voice, and that should probably once I tell you what the words, that will tell you everything.
J'ai pas compris. Monsieur PoiliOVER s'est arrêté ici. Qu'est-ce que vous dites? Je sais pas. Est-ce qu'il était perdu?
So, the journalist he says to the journalist, what did you say? I didn't understand. He says, Mr. PoiliOVER was here this morning. He goes, what? Was he lost? Oh my God. Okay. So you have the utter unseriousness that is the Conservative Party of Canada right now. Right? You have Andrew Scheer. God love him. Somebody has to. I'm so sorry. God, that man. You have Andrew Scheer repeatedly going to the microphone to say things. And it's oh my God, what was it? Was on the bridge, I think it was. With Peter Mansbridge, it was Chantal Hébert and Bruce Anderson, and they were talking about Andrew Scheer, and Chantal Hébert had said something. Oh God, I wish I could remember what it was. And immediately after, Bruce Anderson slides in to add to it something like the biggest mistake that Pierre Poilievre makes pretty much on a daily basis is having Andrew Scheer out there to speak for the party. I assume that Pierre Poilievre thinks that keeping Andrew Scheer there is the safest thing for him because Andrew Scheer has already been a leader and has already been and therefore does not constitute a threat specifically to Pierre. And maybe that's why because Pierre likes a sure thing, remember? So having Andrew there, no matter what a liability he may be, it's still in Pierre's interest, but it's not in the party's interest, however. And here it is. I found the clip that I was looking for here of Bruce Anderson. All right. That's still showing us François Philippe Champagne. Let me see if I can put this. There we go. This is from the bridge. I believe it is April 17th, if I am not mistaken. And here we go. Ouch. Ouch. That hurts. And it seems that that the Andrew Scheer thing continues. Greg McEachern, who is often brought in as an analyst or as a pundit on CBC Power and Politics, he's the comments. If you're following his Twitter feed, every now and then, I've been sitting there the past couple of days ago. Is that shade? I get the feeling that that's shade. And then yesterday he put one out and said, okay, that's definitely shade. Things like, for example, the Conservatives continue to moan about floor crossings, but have yet to announce a policy that they will no longer accept floor crossers. Interesting. But one of the things he had been doing is he had been indeed wondering about Andrew Scheer, and said, you got to take him out of this. You just got to take him out of circulation here, politically, because he's not, as a spokesperson at least, because he's just not doing it. And there came this clip here that Scott Robertson put up, and he said, at this point, it's clear Andrew Scheer is just making it up as he goes along. And Greg McEachern is, I stand corrected. Keep putting him out. This is great. which that is definitely shade. Okay. I know a little bit about shade. This is the clip in question. All right. And the reason I'm showing you these here is to show just how unserious these conservatives are being mocked by their rivals. They're being mocked by the press. They're being mocked by pundits. Right? Like this, when they're laughing at you, you're dead on arrival, and they've been laughing at them for quite a while now. But now they're just laughing right out in the open.
But on an individual level, how is what Chris D'Entremont did any different than what Leona Elleslev did? I mean, I was watching in the question period gallery, you were the conservative leader. Melissa Landsman, before she was in elected life, was a consultant, and she helped orchestrate the day where Leona Elleslev stood, voiced her displeasure with the direction under Justin Trudeau, and joined your caucus. I mean, that happens in Westminster Parliament. Not like, the changing from minority to majority, but how is one floor crossing so fundamentally different from another floor crossing, except who it benefits in these examples? Well,
as I said, none of the that particular floor crossing and others didn't fundamentally change the nature of the government.
But she was elected as a Liberal in Aurora Oak Hills.
The Liberals had a majority, they kept a majority after that. And there's all the difference in the world between someone who kind of had their eyes open about the type of leader that Justin Trudeau was.
But is it just the standings in the House, or is it the will of the voters in the ridings?
No, it's the collective will of the Canadian people at a general election. So a handful of MPs for very specific ridings have fundamentally changed the nature of this parliament from a minority to a majority. That is not what Canadians voted for. Canadians voted for a strong opposition to have a very strong check and balance on this government. We were elected to provide that in the strongest opposition in Canadian history, elected to provide that oversight, and now they're taking the expressed will of the Canadian people away.
All right. So much BS there. You can tell by all the stuttering and stammering and whatnot that he is indeed making it up as he goes along. Now, I got a particular chuckle on this one when Andrew Scheer, somewhere in the middle of it, was stating, because, well, there's a difference when Leona Alislev, noticed that, she didn't have a real leader or Justin Trudeau, because the four people who left the conservative benches to go to the liberal benches, all of them explicitly stating or suggesting via some snark or some shade, a leadership issue or a personality issue with Pierre Poilievre is not the, well, yeah, that is exactly the same thing now, is it, Andrew? And because these particular floor crossings created a situation where a minority parliament went to a majority parliament, which is the first time it's ever happened anywhere in the Commonwealth, of course. Now, Andrew Scheer has some new rules, a little bit like Mitch McConnell, when he said, well, wait a minute, we're in the 2 years, we're in the last year in the Obama presidency term. You can't appoint a Supreme Court justice now. The people should have a right to vote on that. That's not a rule. You can't do that if you're a president with 1 year left in your term to appoint a Supreme Court justice, as you're completely entitled to it, but you're not allowed to do that if you're black. This new rule, yes, it is very, very, very unique that we have a situation where a government has flipped from a minority to a majority, but from a minority to a majority. Okay. Absolutely. That is very unique. It's very wild, and it comes with big consequences. But the rules are that the committees, or the convention is that the committees reflect the composition of the House, the working composition of the House. It's now Andrew Scheer's coming in and saying, no. It's like, well, the vote that happened at the election, if the composition of the House should change for anything, and this doesn't necessarily mean that when Andrew Scheer's talking this way, this does not necessarily mean majority or minority situation, but it could be a situation like, remember, I think 2003, was it, or 1993, after the Kritzy, after the Kritzy years, after the Mulroney years, when we had Reform Party and we had the Bloc, and they were both like very close. I think one had like 52 seats or one had 55 seats or something like that. Certain number of floor crossings would have determined which party is the official opposition, which party is the third party. Had that happened at that time, the composition on committees would have had to change as well, because the official opposition has more seats on the committee than the third party. Right? So this is not only something that applies in minority or majority situation. It could happen when, in a parliament such as ours, through floor crossings, a party could lose official opposition status as well. Right? If the seats were close. The committees, structure of the committees reflect the working composition of the House. Andrew Scheer wants you to believe now that the way it has always been is that once you vote, that vote that happens when you vote the entire parliament in a general election, if anything changes in the composition of the House, what people voted is what the composition of the House should be henceforth until there is another election, general election. Mark Carney, as a majority government, as a majority with a majority designate government, because everybody isn't sworn in yet, of course, is doing the thing that every single other majority government in Canadian history has done, no exceptions. And the Conservatives are trying to make Canadians believe that this somehow is some terrible, awful travesty of democracy. And she keeps saying, it's unprecedented. Well, yeah, it's unprecedented because nowhere ever in the Commonwealth has ever a minority government gone to majority or majority to minority. during the course of the mandate. But once again, our parliamentary system rules provide for pretty much everything, and they are pretty clear. So Andrew Scheer is out there just inventing stuff. Just pulling it right up out of its backside when he's making these comments. And so you get people like, for example, Craig Fergus, former Speaker of the House, who knows a little bit about procedure and rules, given that he was the former Speaker of the House, and that's kind of his thing, knowing how the House works. Calling the Conservative out on their hypocrisy, and one could say lack of seriousness of their argument.
If we do a little thought experiment on this, imagine if we had won the election with a clear majority in 2025 during the general election. We would have been majority for committees. And imagine if people were dissatisfied in the caucus and they left the caucus and we became minority. Clearly, everybody would be calling for us to change the committee structure with reason. Anyway, see you later.
That's useful. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it.
There you go. Speaker of the House, former Speaker of the House, you ain't taking any of that guff. You just debunk the BS right there. Flip it. What if it were a majority? What if we had a majority and it had dripped down to a minority? Would you have Andrew Scheer running to the mic saying, no, don't change the composition of the committees to give us the majority on them? You just keep those, even though you lost the majority in the House. You keep the majority on all those committees. Because that's the way it's done, right? It's the results. The composition of committees are the result of the election at the time and not the current composition of the House. But they never change from the election. That's cemented in for the entire duration up until the next election, right? You think Andrew Scheer would be saying the same thing? Oh, God. It's just not serious. It's just not serious. Get some cups. So yeah, that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with conservatives who are, as the Prime Minister stated when we had him one-on-one, soon after it was confirmed that he had secured a majority that would come into effect when everybody else is elected in, that oh God, I forgot how I was going to finish that sentence. I'm sorry. But yes, that said, there is too much showboating going on, and perhaps once those committee structures change, there'll be less of it, and while the Conservatives are not used to functioning in that matter, maybe they will see the benefit of it. Let's put it that way. And the Conservatives, of course, responding with more showboating. So I guess maybe they're trying to get their last remnants of it out of their system before they might have to function according to another set of rules here. So we have the Conservatives, the Liberals, and the Prime Minister stating specifically here that now it's time to get serious. And when it comes to the changes of the composition of committees, it seems that the government is indeed going ahead with that and has announced it here, according to Darren Major, says that CBC says Government House Leader Stephen McKinnon said in a social media post on Tuesday that he intends to introduce a motion, quote, in the coming days that would add more Liberals to House committees after the party gained a majority earlier this month. So the Liberals had the option to either remove a Conservative or one opposition member, most likely, sorry, I got hiccups there, most likely a Conservative from committee, or to add a Liberal member in order to create the majority. If you remove a member, it creates an opportunity for Conservatives to go to the mic. Oh my God, they silenced our voices. So the Liberals just decided rather than to silence the voice by eliminating a voice, to dilute the voice by adding another Liberal. Less PR problems there. Conservative House Leader Andrew Scheer blasted the Liberals' move on Wednesday, accusing the government of attempting, quote, to stack the deck in its own favor rather than use their newfound majority to make life more affordable for Canadians. They literally just cut the excise tax, dude. The very first thing this Liberal government has done is to make life easier for themselves, Scheer told reporters on Parliament Hill. Boy. Anyway, so yeah. In an emailed statement, McKinnon said the Liberals wouldn't support the Conservatives' proposal, this was the proposal to make it such that, basically, the Conservative House Leader said his party would introduce an amendment to McKinnon's motion that would leave the standings on 3 oversight committees, the Ethics Committee, the Public Accounts Committee, and the Government Operations Committee, intact. So the Conservatives are already conceding here, saying, okay, fine, if you're going to have to take the lead on the committees, take them all, but leave us the Ethics Committee, the Public Accounts Committee, and the Government Operations Committee. Come into my web, said the spider to the fly. McKinnon, nah, we won't be doing that. Quote, there are not 2 tiers of committees in Parliament. They're all the same, and the principle applies to them equally, the statement said. The composition of committees traditionally reflects the party's standings in the House of Commons. All legislation passed in Parliament must be studied at committee, and MPs can launch separate studies into topics of interest. The House unanimously passed a motion in June which locked in committee standings for the duration of this Parliament, and that's where the rub comes in, because they actually voted on this in June. But now, when they will have their working majority in Parliament, the Liberals can ask to vote on this again with new House standing orders, which will not pass unanimously, of course, but will pass with the majority of the House. As it stands, House committees have roughly even split of Liberals and Conservatives. Each committee also has 1 Bloc Québécois member. McKinnon defended his motion, saying it's a, quote, long-standing principle that a party that has a majority of seats in the House also has a majority on committees. Quote, from the start, we've made it very clear we want to work collaboratively with parties in the House. We don't want to play silly partisan games that waste the time and the money of taxpayers, McKinnon said earlier on Wednesday. Despite McKinnon's assertion, Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet said Wednesday that the Liberals are trying to take control of committees to serve their own, quote, partisan interests. Quote, the government has not been elected as a majority government. Prime Minister Mark Carney has convinced some MPs to cross the floor and become suddenly deeply convicted Liberals, Blanchet told reporters on Parliament Hill. To change those parliamentary rules in favor of their own partisan interests is quite something revealing to do as the first thing to be done after gaining majority. The Liberals formed a minority government after last year's election, but moved into majority territory earlier this month after regaining seats in 3 by-elections and attracting a slew of floor crossers in recent months. Let's see here. The 3 Liberals who won by-elections earlier this month have yet to be sworn in, and McKinnon said Wednesday he's not 100% certain when they will claim their seats. The process between someone winning an election and being sworn in can take a few weeks. So there, we have that, and Mr. McKinnon, I believe, had posted something that I see here, and the document, standing order for the duration of the 45th Parliament, Standing Order 104, paragraph 1, I'm going to guess here, be amended by replacing the words consist of 10 members with the words consist of 12 members. So they are adding 2 members to the committees. And then it says here, paragraph AI of the order adopted on June 5th, 2025 be rescinded, and Standing Order 104, paragraph 2 be amended by replacing the words consist of 10 members with the words consist of 12 members. So all of that is there. to the following, which shall be comprised, so here they're talking about the composition of committees, which shall be composed of 7 members from the Liberal Party, 4 members from the Conservative Party, and 1 member from the Bloc Québécois, except for the Standing Committee on Access to Information, Privacy and Ethics, and the Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates, the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, and the Standing Committee on Status of Women, which shall consist of 10 members and be composed of 5 members from the Liberal Party, 4 members from the Conservatives, and 1 member from the Bloc, and for which the lists of members are to be prepared except as provided in Section 1 of this standing over shall be on. So I'm not sure why some committees are 12 and some are 10. Maybe the ones that were 10 had 8 before, and if you add 2, that leads them to 10. Because I just read a quote saying that they're all equal, but they don't have equal membership, which is kind of interesting. For greater certainty, the membership of the Standing Joint Committee on the Library of Parliament be increased by 2 members of the House of Commons from the Government Party, and the Standing Joint Committee for the Security of Regulations be increased by 1 member of the House of Commons from the Government Party. The Clerk of the House be authorized to make any required editorial and consequential alterations to the standing orders, including to the marginal notes. Let's see if there's anything there additional here. Nope. Those are the major things that are in that motion. There's a couple of other things, but it's basically housekeeping and clauses that make things, other things consistent throughout. But yes, here it seems that they are going ahead with that. Conservatives are screaming as they would be expected to do, but not presenting a serious counter argument that is tethered in any fact or custom or convention as to why it should not or could not be done, or how it is in any way undemocratic or precedent setting. The only thing that makes it unique is the fact that the by-election results have flipped a parliament from a minority to majority. But other than that, the rules function the same way. There's no special exceptions for it. So that's moving ahead. And then we talked to you about certain other things over the course of the past few days. We talked to you about the fact that this big investment summit is being planned for Canada. Foreign direct investment in Canada, we recently got some data, is at a 17-year high. And the government of Canada has decided that it wants to try to secure more investment at a time where Canada seems to be attractive or gaining attractiveness on the international scene as a place to invest. And therefore, I think it is on September 14th and 15th of the year, the Prime Minister has sent out over 100 invitations to some of corporate leaders, world leaders, and sovereign wealth funds. It says here that from what I've been hearing on various podcasts and stuff, that letters have gone out to greater than 100 CEOs, and they went out on prime ministerial letterhead, which again adds much trust and legitimacy to the event, given who the prime minister is and his personal credentials and the size of his international network. Again, his contact list. So yes, September 14th and 15th in Toronto, coinciding with the Toronto International Film Festival, and immediately, well, not immediately, but soon on the heels of having hosted World Cup events. So a lot that will be putting Toronto on the world and international map at the time. Who knows, maybe there's some investors from the cultural sector that will also be there, given the overlapping of both events, the film festival and the investment conference itself. Here it says, according to James Bradshaw, who's the institutional investing reporter for the Globe and Mail, he stated on the Decibel the other day, "You heard the PM say we have what the world wants. There's going to be a pitch that what the world needs right now is energy, and we are a producer of energy. Coming we are a producer of energy, both traditional energy like oil and gas and also clean energy. Critical minerals will be another big part of it. AI is another piece of the puzzle, both in terms of having innovative companies. Think of a company like Cohere that are actually producing the models and building the AI, but also the backbone infrastructure. Do you have computing power? Do you have data centers? Do you have the energy to run them? The pitch is going to be that a lot of the things that are most coveted resources for investments in the world are the things that Canada has, and that you should be looking at us. It has to be a destination. And the notion here is that Canada hasn't always been seen as a big destination for investment. It hasn't always been on the radar. A lot of investments saw Canada not really as a distinct destination for investment on its own, but as part of a North American market. We were lumped in with the US, and because the US is the largest and deepest capital investment market in the world, a lot of the investment went there at the end of the day. Now that's starting to turn. It's starting to change a little bit. Investors are starting to see Canada as a destination in its own right, and maybe even a way to diversify their investments, to spread them around so that they don't have all of their eggs in one or two baskets like the US or like Europe. They mitigate the risks of a world that is changing and alliances that are fraying and so on. So that's part of the pitch here. Just have Canada seen like we're on the radar, we're a destination, and we're a place to look for investment opportunities. And then he continues on to say here that the other thing Canada has to get over is the notion that we're just not that big. One of the pension funds I talked to a lot would tell you that we are about 3% of the global investable market, and foreign investors have had the same complaint that domestic investors have had, like our big pension funds, which is sometimes there just aren't all that many big ticket opportunities available in Canada. If you're one of the really huge global investors we're trying to invite to the summit, they're not writing $5 or $10 million checks. They're writing 100 million, 500 million, $1 billion checks. And how many of those opportunities have we had to offer? You've got to create a menu of things people are actually interested in and clear the bar like for them, and for them to watch, to come. You have to clear the bar for them to watch and to come in and put money. That's what we're doing with the major projects office, right? We're sending all these projects over there, and hey, here's a multi-billion-dollar project. Here's another multi-billion-dollar project. Here are these things to invest with. And if you remember our sessions, our shows about the time when the Prime Minister was in Australia, there was a lot of talk about the Canada Pension Fund, CPP Investments, and maybe the Australian Pension Fund merging some of their buying power together in order to invest in some projects or to invest in each other's projects individually. So this kind of falls in line with that piece of the puzzle that we saw him working on when he was over there. So yeah, we have this situation going on. We have this summit. We also have, as we mentioned, about $51 billion of local infrastructure being funded that was announced a little while ago. Let me see here if I can get a little information on that, because I read you the article about that, Kits and Cubs, but certain projects specifically had been announced. As we mentioned, a certain amount of them had something to do with water systems in particular. So I figured, since I had an opportunity to actually take a little look at some of the projects that were listed. One of them, it seems that the Fort Francis Memorial Sports Center will generate solar energy following an investment of $589,762 from the federal government through the Green Inclusive Community Buildings Program. Funding will reduce greenhouse gas emissions and annual electricity costs for the facility. A rooftop solar generation system will convert solar energy into clean electricity for direct on-site use. These savings will ultimately be reinvested to enhance the building, as well as the programs and services offered to the broader community. So that is the type of projects that we are talking about here that are being invested in when we're looking at this. Hold on, Kits and Cubs. For some reason, the screen changed on me. There we go. There was also some projects, money invested in projects to strengthen Nunavut's economy, infrastructure, and Arctic security while they were there. Says here that there's a maritime and aerial capability acquisition project that will allow a certain company, Sedna ROV, to invest in Arctic capable equipment that can be used for both civilian and defense purposes. Includes an unmanned surface vehicle with long range capability and supporting equipment to carry out hydrographic surveys, improve environmental monitoring, and supporting Arctic defense readiness. And the Canor contribution there was about $4.5 million. Another about $4.5 million went to a project that will gather environmental baseline information and carry out early design work to support a future feasibility study and engage communities and stakeholders. It will include geotechnical drilling program, land-based and marine environmental studies, and further development of engineering designs. And that's for Grays Bay, Nunavut. There was a hydrofiber link development phase project in Rankin Inlet, Nunavut, that received some funding as well. And there is a two-story, 7,222 square foot building in Iqaluit that is going to be built that will help a group called Ampere's capacity to deliver programming, helping Nunavummiut develop digital skills, start or grow businesses, and access dedicated entrepreneurship supports. So these, I'm guessing, are not part of well, some of these things are infrastructure dollars, I guess, here. There was an investment of $1.2 million to grow Yukon's food systems. The funds will support 5 projects that empower communities and businesses with the infrastructure and tools they need to prepare safely, store, and distribute foods. Also delivered by the Canor program. So yeah, again, I guess when we're talking about infrastructure, because it develops local infrastructure supports for food production, safe storage, and distribution. There's been some investments in public transit infrastructure, $14.3 million in 2 infrastructure projects in Mississauga that will benefit transit and active transportation, it sees here. It will help the My Way transit fleet to zero-emission electric vehicles. And then there's a second investment that will support future improvements to the transportation infrastructure, which will include preliminary design for nearly 8 kilometers of bicycle paths on 3 roads there. And that will make the city more bike-friendly and safer for everyone. So again, little infrastructure projects of the like, $51 billion of those announced to go ahead. And those are the things that I told you when you looked at Pierre's response video to the Prime Minister's video, in which Pierre criticized the Prime Minister for making a video, which is, again, incredibly ironic. And again, another sign that this party is not serious. But in that video, Pierre PoiliOVER claimed that the Harper government had approved 23,500 projects and tried to make Canadians believe that they were 23,500 projects of the scale of an LNG export terminal, for example, when there were more projects of these types of kinds. And so the government of Canada is also doing these types of projects, going to local communities and putting some money into the local communities by revamping some critical infrastructure in those cities. So that is taking place. In addition to all of that, soon after it was the by-election results came in, indicating that the government now had a working majority. You had François-Philippe Champagne announce that on the 28th of April, which is 5 days from now, is the day on which the spring economic statement would be delivered. Again, that's a new term from us because we're usually used to the term fall economic statement because our budgets usually came in April and the economic statement in October. Things have now flipped. Now we have the budgets coming in October and the economic statements coming in April. So, according to Catherine Tunney of CBC News, Canadians will get a better sense of the country's finances amid a global turbulence and shocks to the energy supply chain later this month when the Liberals table their spring economic statement. Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne announced in the House of Commons that update will come on April 28th, exactly 1 year since the federal election that kept the Liberals in power. The announcement also comes a day after the government clinched a majority, allowing the Liberals to pass legislation through the House of Commons more quickly. The economic update will be closely watched as Canadians experience rising energy prices caused by the US Israel led war in Iran, which has choked off oil exports in the Strait of Hormuz. Earlier in the day, Prime Minister Mark Carney announced the government is temporarily removing the federal excise tax on gas and diesel and suggested the fiscal update will have additional measures to support Canadians. This is going to be a plan that is going to help families. It's going to help our industry. It's going to help our nation, Champagne said in the House. As an aside on that, kits and cubs, there's also going to be a move when it comes to that also on jet fuel. I'm not sure is on that one because for gas we know it's 10 cents a liter and for diesel we know it's 4 cents a liter. I'm not sure what I haven't seen any public information about how much um, the reduction for jet fuel is going to be. But to give an idea of how badly it has been impacted, it says that the price of jet fuel, not the article, but other information that I've picked up on podcasts and other news reports, is indicating that the price of jet fuel has jumped to $188 US a barrel, which is double the price of a year ago. Air Transat has announced that it will be dropping capacity by 6% for flights to Europe and the Caribbean between May and October, and particularly flights to JFK International will be cut. The extension of the ending of their or the cutting of their service to Cuba will also continue until at least October. Lufthansa has also indicated that it will be reducing flights. It would appear that Europe is the largest consumer of jet fuel that passes through the straits, so they are the most affected. And there was some news articles out there indicating that Europe has about a 6-week supply of jet fuel left before things start to get really bad. So I guess that explains some of the motivation for these cuts. Air Canada and WestJet have also moved to drop less profitable flights. And of course, you have things like rising baggage fees and gas surcharges and all that kind of stuff. So, jet travel and travel by plane is definitely becoming more seriously affected as this crisis goes on. Says here that, and then I mentioned the fact that the government dates have changed. The fiscal updates have been grown to be known as mini budgets. So you might hear the spring economic update or the spring mini budget if we're referring to this. The article goes on to remind us that the Liberals' November 4th budget projected a deficit of $78.3 billion for the fiscal year that ended March 31st and more than a $65 billion deficit for the current fiscal year. There will probably be some adjustments to those amounts based on the amount of expected increase in royalties we might experience as a result of what is going on in Iran and the blockade, and then now the blockade of the blockade. Because Iran blocked the Strait of Hormuz, but it seems that the United States has blocked everything so that basically Iran was blocking stuff so that nothing can get out unless it wanted it to. And it seems that the United States blockaded the blockade to make sure that nothing gets in, trying to, bear hug in some way Iran until things get unacceptable there. And maybe they come to the table that way. But this leads one to believe that this energy crisis is going to continue on for the foreseeable future here. So we have some serious moves being made. Other serious moves being made by Canada on this front involve, we've been talking about a spaceport a lot as well. here, and it seems that there was an announcement yesterday, not yesterday, maybe the day before yesterday, with regard to some legislation, again, that Stephen McKinnon is going to introduce uh, so that we can indeed go ahead with a spaceport. Um, let me take a look at this here. It's called the Canada Space Launch Act. And we have two quick quotes from the minister here with regard to that, thanks to Scott Robertson. So let's see if we've got this lined up correctly. I'm not sure that that's right. So let me take this one more time here. There we go. That's the right one. And now let's put it up on the screen for you. This was much easier when we only had to do it. It was a one-step process rather than a five-step process. All right. So this is one here where the minister here is giving a little bit of credit to Jeremy Hansen.
The fact that Jeremy Hansen has kind of renewed our enthusiasm for space and its possibilities is absolutely, a catalyst for what we're doing today.
And then, what the hell just happened? Okay, that was very weird. So sorry, kids and cubs. I was going to present the other clip immediately back to back from that, but when I closed it, it brought me to an entirely different screen. But here we go. We are back again, and let's show it. And this is the second part of the Minister of Transport here, giving us an idea
Enabling
or
legislation, it will
a timeline here for the legislation and a timeline for when the legislation's goals could be achieved.
Is there a timeline? How soon could we see, I guess, a rocket into space's orbit?
So this legislation is enabling legislation. It will allow us to put that regulatory framework in place, but I think you're talking, 2 to 3 years. Yep.
So here we go. Looking to have rockets for 2 to 3 years. Now, Canada has a little bit of experience in the domain in terms of rocketry, but we've only done we've not done suborbital launches. I think it is. There's a level of launch that we have done, and then there's another one that we have not done at all in any way, shape, or form here. Canada is currently the only G7 country without sovereign space launch capabilities. We've never achieved an orbital launch, only suborbital launches for scientific research and amateur pursuits. The minister says that this will make Canada more independent and create more jobs. The act itself seeks to amend Canada's Aeronautics Act, which regulates, among other things, civil aviation, in order to create sovereign space capabilities for Canada with an aim to eventually be launching our own rockets. Should the act pass the House, we can create a commercial space industry right here in Canada that could be worth $40 billion. The minister anticipates here. That's pretty sizable industry here. Let's see if I'm going to see if I can find out a little bit more about this here, because I'm sure there was an article about it other than what I've picked up on some podcasts, but I could be wrong as well. All right, I don't see anything at the top of my head. At the top of my head. That's not at the top of my head. I just don't see anything popping out. but perhaps on, there we go. I knew I would find it. Here, according to the Canada.ca news release site, it says the Minister of Transport and the Leader of the Government in the House of Commons, the Honourable Stephen McKinnon, introduced the Canada Space Launch Act to deliver Canadian sovereign space launch capabilities. The act would enable the government to safely regulate and oversee space launch and re-entry activities conducted from Canadian territory, while also establishing the necessary authorities to provide regulatory certainty to industry, support investment and infrastructure development, and strengthen Canada's ability to meet its international obligations related to space. Establishing Canadian sovereign space launch capabilities would drive billions in investments, create good paying jobs, increase Canada's sovereignty, reduce our economy's reliance on the United States, and support a commercial space launch and re-entry industry that could be worth $40 billion. The Canadian Space Launches Act's regulatory framework is key to securing our place in the rapidly growing global space economy while building on Canada's historic contributions to humanity's space innovations. This positions Canada to meet strategic needs, enhance resilience of critical infrastructure and other systems that rely on space assets, while fueling domestic innovation and industry growth and positioning Canada for renewed economic and security partnerships with allies. Canada must be ambitious to have better control over its launches and stronger measures to reduce costly delays that leave critical infrastructure exposed to decisions beyond our control. As Canada develops greater launch and re-entry capabilities, these provide new opportunities for partnerships, collaboration, and capacity building in Canada and with other nations around the world. So yeah, there you have it. Again, making some interesting moves that shows that we are serious about diversifying. It says that in 2022, revenues of the space sector were estimated at about $5 billion, with exports reaching $2 billion and contributed approximately $3.2 billion to Canada's gross domestic product. In 2023, Canada's space workforce grew by 5.9%, creating a record 13,888 space-related jobs from coast to coast to coast. And based on estimates from Deloitte, the domestic space market is projected to reach $40 billion by 2040, and the global space economy is estimated to reach $1.5 trillion by 2032. Wow, that's incredible. So yeah, we're going to go get ourselves a piece of that, kits and cubs. Another way that the federal government has announced that it is also being serious is by negotiating trade. And one of the nations with which we are trying to negotiate trade, but it seems to be a nation that would rather the drama exist than the deal exist, is the United States. And as you know, we are getting ready to negotiate, not negotiate, but to review CUSMA. And this is very, very important because a lot of people use the terms loosely. This is a scheduled review that's supposed to take, this is not a line by line negotiated treaty thing. This is supposed to be this overall general review where we look at some of the things that we had put into place prior to the last time we negotiated, see if things are still working. Do we still like it? Do we still want to continue with this? Yeah, we go ahead, right? And we have a Dominique Leblanc speaking to this specifically here. So let's see if I can just put him up here for you, kits and cubs, making this very point about it being a review specifically and not an entire renegotiation.
He has publicly said that he called it load-bearing walls, that CUSMA, his words, are load-bearing walls for the U.S. economy. They clearly are for Canada and Mexico as well. This is a review process. It's not a renegotiation. We're not going chapter by chapter. It's not 2016 all over again.
So in that sense, it should be a shorter process. And this is an important piece of data to be reminded of, because you keep on hearing the conservatives screaming, oh my God, you know, Mexico has a date. They're going to start renegotiating on May 25th, and we don't have anything going on whatsoever. So terrible. Yeah. Again, as we stated many times on the show, and as is being repeated, to Dominique Leblanc repeated that in that interview as well, it has long been known and it's long been established that each of us as a nation have different issues with the United States, specifically the United States with us. Like, for example, we do not necessarily have a migrant issue like Mexico has. We do not necessarily have a fentanyl or drug issue like Mexico has. So we each have our list of individual irritants, one each with the other, that we are going to spend some time negotiating. And our list with the United States and the United States list with us is way smaller than the one between the United States and Mexico. So, of course, they got to get started on it a little earlier. And these are things that do not involve us in any way, shape, or form. So we have no business having necessarily any opinion on migration or how it is they handle the border south of us, unless it's something they want to make universal and apply to the northern border as well. But other than that, that's not our circus, not our monkeys. Why would we be at the table for that negotiation? So these things are going to happen, and then there's the tripartite portions of it, and then we're all going to come together for that. So again, there's nothing to be worried about with regard to that. There's also the statement that July 1st is a deadline. It is a deadline, but it's a deadline-ish that we need to be familiar, of course, here. And it's a deadline-ish in that, because this is a review, this is not necessarily a make or break for CUSMA. If we decide that we are not going to sign a deal that says that we are continuing this on for the next 16 years, what happens in that case is that for the next 10 years, it goes on a rolling basis, that we're basically reviewing and reviewing and reviewing every year and deciding whether or not we want to go ahead or continue with that. That seems to be the way that it has. And even if somebody says that they want to get out completely, there's still a time for that to happen. There's an exit time that's required there. So, and it already seems to be the case that it's not going to happen by July 1st, no matter what. Even the US seems to be acknowledging that. So again, there's going to be a lot of screaming and crying that, oh my God, we didn't do it by July 1st, and we're not getting there, and it's going to be terrible. No, this is as early as April 7th here. The Trump administration, it says here, this is from Thomson Reuters, the press group. The Trump administration will try to resolve as many problems with the Canada-US-Mexico agreement as it can before July 1st, but negotiations to rebalance the trade park are likely to continue past that deadline. U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer said on Tuesday night, the United States is just not eager to get a deal. We aren't probably going to be able to resolve all the issues by July 1st, but I think we are on track to resolve many of them and to move as quickly as we can, Greer said. CUSMA is undergoing a mandatory review this year as U.S. President Donald Trump continues his campaign to realign global trade and poach key industries from the closest neighbors of the United States. Before Trump launched his tariff war, roughly 76% of Canada's exported goods went to the U.S., while 17% of U.S. exported goods were destined to Canada. Greer told an event at the Hudson Institute that the U.S. may need to take steps to exit the North American Trade Pact in order to continue those talks. It would take 10 years for a full exit from the pact under CUSMA sunset clause, he said. And during those 10 years, of course, there can be a change of administration at any time during those 10 years. If there's a new administration, we can decide, no, actually, we do want to go ahead for the next 16 years with this deal. So it's not going to be the end of the world. Is it going to create more instability? Yes. Is it going to create more uncertainty? Yes. Do markets love those things? Yes, absolutely. Give me more instability and unpredictability, said every market across the world. Now, that's not going to be great, clearly, but it's not the end of the world by any stretch whatsoever. And it seems that the United States doesn't seem to be particularly motivated to get a deal, as we can see with what's going on with Iran, right? Let's have a ceasefire. Okay, now I'm going to blockade your blockade, and gonna take over one of your ships and stuff. Well, okay, I guess you can call that a ceasefire. But is it really? And does it inspire me confidence for me to come back to the table? We know he has already ripped up to 2 deals that we've had. From Canada's perspective, you have to understand that Mark Carney, who is a risk manager, is probably, while our relationship with the United States is important, it's probably no longer the number one thing that is preoccupying him because, again, even if he signs anything, how long does it last? And what's the value in it? So, are we dragging our heels to see if pressure from the midterms and increased pressure from what Trump is doing in Iran and all that kind of stuff makes it such that he might need a win going into those midterms and would love to have a wonderful deal with wonderful, beautiful Canada, which will once again be the best deal he's ever negotiated ever and the best deal that's ever been negotiated in the history of the planet. And he could point to it and claim it's a win and that he got us to cave on so many things. Right? He won. He won on everything. We caved on everything. And, see, I told you everybody wants to come. Because the United States, when it comes to us, still taking this position that there are 2 countries in the world that retaliated because then imposed counter tariffs, Canada and China. And therefore, they weren't very happy because if you remember when they were putting the tariffs on, you had Scott Bessent basically say, now, it's like, remember, don't retaliate. Don't retaliate. Just let us climb all on top of you and have our way with you, but don't retaliate and don't struggle. You'll only make it worse. Right? We imposed counter tariffs. The U.S. didn't like that, clearly. Greer is also making it very clear that there's probably no chance that any of those sectoral tariffs in steel and aluminum and whatnot are going to be reduced. Of course, that's not flying very well with us. Right? So we'll see what happens there on that. In the build-up to getting to the point where it is that we are going to be entering this review process for CUSMA, there have been a couple of economic points and things that have occurred. We've added some jobs in March, 14,000 jobs, and we've had inflation go up from 1.8% to 2.4% as a result, principally of what's going on with gas. In the United States, their inflation is getting close to 4%. So their situation is a lot worse than ours. They've lost way more jobs than we have. We have created more jobs than they have. And of course, a very key metric as well is that in public opinion polling, this government has more support from the shareholders, if we want to use that terminology, of society than the American president does. There's been some discussions about whether or not Canada should give the United States greater energy rights as part of these negotiations. When we were looking at that deal that might have happened around the time that Doug Ford put that ad out, there was even some talk about maybe reviving Keystone XL, which would send more of our oil south, which doesn't help us with our diversification plan, but does help us in terms of selling oil at a higher price, even though we do sell it at a discount to the United States. But yeah, it seems that there could be some energy stuff here related. One of the things that changed between the old deal that we had and the new NAFTA deal that we had is that when it came to energy, if we were producing more energy, let's say we were producing, if the deal that we had with the United States is that we send 30% of everything we produced to the United States, if we produced 1 million barrels more a following year than we did the previous year, we had to send 30% of that excess to the United States no matter what. That proportionality clause was eliminated. in in our last negotiation, which is one of the things that have helped us actually in our bid to selling more oil and stuff to Asian markets and others. Um, it says here, there's an article from Anis Hidari here that says, previous versions of the free trade agreement between the two countries used to include a section called energy proportionality, which restricted Canada from reducing the percentage of its total oil and gas or similar exports to the United States, even in the event of an emergency. What we'd send to them on a good day, we'd also have to send to them on a bad day, explained Gitan De Silva, former senior representative for Alberta to the United States and former CEO of the Canada Energy Regulator. That old treaty language could have functionally stopped Canada from switching exports to a country other than the United States or from halting exports to increase domestic supply. But when CUSMA replaced NAFTA in 2020, there was no energy proportionality section. That's something we actually won in that negotiation that didn't get a lot of attention. Experts and academics point out that this is because the older energy restrictions were shaped by concerns coming out of the late 1970s and late 1980s when we had that oil crisis that we are seeming to be replicating just as we are entering in this negotiation or this review now. Back under the original agreement, the specter of Arab oil embargo loomed large in the U.S., said Carlo Dade, director of international policy at the University of Calgary's School of Public Policy, and oil supply crunches weren't that far in the past. Canada had previously imposed and lifted controls on its oil supply through the defunct National Energy Program. Fast forward to the 21st century, and a national energy program that certain conservative MPs like Aaron Gunn seem to be complaining loud about and seem to be indicating they would like some version of again without realizing that they are probably calling for that. Fast forward to the 21st century. Over decades, the United States ramped up energy production within its own borders. Technological shifts, including shale production and fracking, helped eliminate American concerns over whether others would sell to them if global supplies ran into problems. And that created a situation in Canada where the country that was our biggest customer suddenly became our biggest competitor. And that changed a lot for us. In addition, Canadian energy producers continued to sell to customers in the United States. Export systems in this country, such as pipelines, now primarily supply the United States, and on top of that, aren't really movable. The energy proportionality chapter wasn't necessarily required because the infrastructure essentially replaced it. And this is the type of thing that created the situation that when the Prime Minister did his video and talked about our relationship with the United States now, which was providing us points of strength, now providing us points of weakness. And a lot of people ran with that and said, the Prime Minister says that the United States is essentially dead weight or whatnot. It's not what he said. He said, the fact is that we all agreed that that type of integration that we were doing was going to allow us to like really reduce costs and just-in-time manufacturing and all that kind of stuff and be able to maximize our productivity. And therefore, all these things were going to be advantages for the North American market going on to the global world market. But now that the United States has decided that they do not want to be North American market, they want to be the United States controls and dominates the entire hemisphere of the Americas, and all of us are subservient to it because the United States knows that in a couple of years it is no longer going to be the world's number one economy. It's going to be China, and probably somewhere down the road, 1 and 2 will be China and India, and will no longer be the United States. There's so much more people, so many more people in the other two nations, and the United States no longer being number one in the world clearly is trying to make a shift to being number one in the hemisphere, so that it can maintain its illusion of exceptionalism. But there are several other countries in this hemisphere, and we're not playing that. Right? But we have this situation here where we are entering this review process where the United States might want to secure more of its energy here. And maybe we have some leverage in that if they want to ensure that security, that we can increase our capacity to them. We can guarantee that. But we'll see what happens on that front. But that could indeed be a point of leverage for Canadians when we're talking about what it is that we can do to help ourselves here. Along the way, hold on. don't know. I do not know why today I'm when I'm pressing the back button, it's not bringing me back. The computer's doing some really weird stuff, so I have to keep on reloading the pages because they keep disappearing on me. But yeah, so wondering energy in this case, could this be an area? As I mentioned, right, there seems to be also a bigger push for renewables around the world as we're seeing that this happening. I think there was some news yesterday with regard to that the amount of renewable energy that was produced in the world last year could have been enough to fuel all of Europe, I think, for the year. So yeah, it's becoming much less expensive to generate other forms of energy, particular solar at this time, and that a lot of people are looking at this opportunity, or a lot of nations are looking at this opportunity with what's going on in the world as a chance to divert away from these types of the traditional and more conventional types of energy, because they keep on being subjected to these types of shocks, and would rather not have to do that. So we are about to enter this review, and of course, kits and cubs, we have our trade negotiating team there. Janice Charette was recently named as our official point person on trade to the United States. And then we have Mark Wiseman, who is our newly appointed ambassador to the United States. And I believe, if I am not mistaken, that he is going to be testifying before committee today, because we haven't heard a lot publicly about him since he has, or from him since he has been named. Of course, there's probably a lot of work getting up to date and establishing the office and all of that kind of stuff. So that's not necessarily odd that we wouldn't have heard from him yet, but this will give him Canadians an opportunity to hear from him and have the committee be able to ask him some questions. I'm trying to see here whether or not there's some additional information on that with regards to some of these feeds that I get that give me a little bit more insider news about what's going on that. But I don't see anything there. I do have something from, unfortunately, the National Post, but this is Jordan Gowling. I'll try to stick to the facts and remove the editorial stuff in there with regard to it, because this was announced several days ago that this would be happening, maybe about a week ago or so, that the ambassador would be testifying at committee. And now I am getting the spinning wheel of eternal patience. Okay, so we will not bring that little bit of information that we had about the ambassador testifying, because clearly the computer will not cooperate with me today. Let's see if I can maybe find it out. There we go. Let's try this one here. Says Canada's ambassador to the United States, Mark Wiseman, will testify before a House of Commons committee today in his first address to parliamentarians since taking up the job mid-February. A spokesperson for the Bloc Québécois confirmed that Wiseman will attend the Foreign Affairs and International Development Committee in person. In early February, members of the committee adopted a motion by the Bloc Québécois to invite Wiseman to discuss his mandate. The ambassador is a former business executive and friend of Prime Minister Mark Carney and was appointed after Kirsten Hillman announced her decision to step down from the post in December. Wiseman, along with Canada's chief trade negotiator, U.S. Janet Charette, are part of the team leading the negotiations for the upcoming review of the Canada-United States-Mexico Agreement, which is scheduled for July. Wiseman has held several executive-level positions, including at the CPP Investment Board, BlackRock, and the Alberta Investment Management Corporation. His past criticism of Quebec's dairy supply management system has drawn the ire of Quebec politicians who feel Wiseman cannot properly represent the province's interests. The U.S. administration has listed the supply management as a trade irritant with Canada. Wiseman has gone on the record as stating that in this job as the ambassador, he will do, of course, as the Prime Minister instructs. And if the Prime Minister has instructed that supply management will be protected, supply management will indeed be protected because those are his orders. Wiseman also co-founded the Century Initiative, which advocates for increasing Canada's population to 100 million by 2100. The state of CUSMA talks with the U.S. is likely to dominate Wiseman's appearance on Thursday here. And then, of course, it goes back and to give us a little background that says that in mid-March, U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer told Fox Business that Canada was behind Mexico on trade discussions. Of course, this is a tactic that the U.S. uses often, is to claim things about the trade negotiations in public that are particularly for domestic consumption only, or to throw a lob grenade into our camp so that people can take that and run with it and say, oh my God, we are so far behind. We're so far behind Mexico. We're so far behind. No, we're not behind. No. We are exactly where we were supposed to be. We are not behind. But the Americans would find it very convenient for some of us in Canada to believe that, so that it could create, a schism that can then be exploited. Greer has also said it's unlikely the U.S. administration will resolve all its issues with Canada by the July 1st deadline. So if we're not going to meet the deadline anyway, how are we behind, right? This week, Canada's U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc said there's no drop-dead date for the review and that Canada certainly won't be the source of any delays. According to his social media post, Wiseman has spent the first 2 months of his new job meeting with members of U.S. Congress and the Senate, as well as U.S. Secretary of the Interior Doug Begram and U.S. Secretary of Energy Chris Wright. So yes, and again, the statement by Dominic LeBlanc, we certainly will not be the source of any delays, and we haven't been, because we're not the ones who walked away from the table. So there you have it, though. He will be testifying in front of committee today, so there'll definitely be some clips on the news with regard to that, no doubt. Things got a little interesting yesterday, thus proving some of our points. And, oh yes, I forgot about that. Howard Nutlick basically said something about, like, Canada sucks or something. And then I had to have his people put out a revised thing. They didn't mean that we suck, but that we're sucking off them or something. But the quote was, "That is like the worst strategy I've ever heard. They suck. Look, we are $30 trillion economy, right?" Lutnick said. He then pivoted to blast Ottawa's trade partnership with China. Carney has a problem with us. He gets on a plane and he goes to China, Lutnick said. Does he think the Chinese economy is going to buy his stuff? China is entirely an export-driven economy, right? So what do? He came back and said, oh, we'll take their electric cars. I mean, is this nuts? As the United States also does a lot of business with China. Of course, right? I think Michael D'Adder has a great cartoon, editorial cartoon about it, that kind of explains it all really well. And this here, Kits and Cubs, would be it. So let me see if I can bring it to you. There it is. Then pop up onto the screen like this. Like this. There you go. And this would be the cartoon here, Kits and Cubs. For those who are listening, Donald Trump is in front of a whole bunch of signs that say really huge, buy American, buy American, buy American. And Mark Carney stands up in front of him with a T-shirt that says buy Canadian. And Trump is pointing at him going, no fair. The same applies to doing business or to negotiating with China, right? Only the United States is allowed to negotiate with China. Nobody else is. We're very, very bad people. We suck. And when he's saying the word strategy, it's responding to a suggestion from Canada's former trade negotiator that time is on Canada's side during the trade talks because, in his view, political pressure on the U.S. president will only intensify the longer the economy remains as it is, which is the same strategy we used last time around that had Donald Trump pissed off and had him refer to Chrystia Freeland as being terrible, because the United States had to settle for a deal it didn't really want because they needed to win in time for the midterms, and they're making the exact same mistake here. And the other thing to remember as well is that because Dominic LeBlanc has said that there is no drop-dead date, and the Prime Minister is very clear on no deal is better than a bad deal. Canada, one of the reasons why we suck is not only because we did not bend the knee to the United States. Not only did we retaliate, not only did we hope that other people would retaliate and join us, but didn't. And despite the fact that going to Davos and then saying what we did, which did finally turn the light on for a lot of people. The reason why we suck is because the United States knows that we are perfectly willing, ready, willing, and able to just walk away from that table if it's not a good deal. We know that this CUSMA thing is review and it has that 10-year overlapping thing. And if we can't get a deal by July 1st, 2026, maybe we'll get a deal on around January 25th, a couple of years from now, after the next inauguration, should there be one. Or maybe after the midterms, when you've lost both the House and the Senate. And maybe you will need another win or something. Because I'm not sure that 2 years of people referring to you as lame duck à l'orange is going to help with your ego. You're going to need to show that you are still doing stuff. Now, in order to get ready for this trade review, the Prime Minister, also showing that he's serious, revamped the Advisory Committee on Canada-U.S. Economics Relations, revised the membership, and included a certain number of names that will have turn a few heads. The list includes experts, industry and union leaders, and retired high-profile politicians such as former Quebec Premier Jean Charest, not a surprise, former Conservative leader Erin O'Toole. That must make Pierre PoiliOVER simmer, because Pierre PoiliOVER, if you remember, Erin O'Toole was the leader of the Conservative Party, and Pierre PoiliOVER organized the campaign to have some knives stuck in the middle of Erin O'Toole's shoulder blades, and Erin O'Toole was very unceremoniously dumped. And here we are a few years later, where Pierre PoiliOVER is leading a party that is failing, and his political career is going nowhere, and he is entering political irrelevance, as Erin O'Toole, who has been doing some great work from the sidelines, making a couple of comments here and there and showing that he is on Team Canada, gets elevated to the core team of politicians and trusted Canadians on that advisory committee. And probably double insults to Pierre PoiliOVER, because if you remember, Pierre PoiliOVER was out there recommending that we should have a unity team negotiating this, and that some conservatives should be named on it. Well, it seems that the Prime Minister did agree. He just didn't agree that it should be a unity team of elected MPs and have people under Pierre PoiliOVER's control on the list. Clever, clever, clever. So, Premier Jean Charest, Conservative leader Erin O'Toole, and former Conservative cabinet minister Lisa Raitt, who might have to suspend her temporary duties as the Pierre PoiliOVER interpreter. Pierre PoiliOVER person that goes on all the pundit panel says what Pierre really meant to say was. You don't need to tell us what he really meant to say. We heard him. He masters the English language well enough. He doesn't need a reinterpreter. We heard what he said. He meant what he said. According to a government statement, the committee will serve as a forum where members can develop strategy for how Canada should approach its economic relationship with the United States. Quote, I'm very pleased to have that group. It's diverse. It's a diverse group, leaders in from the union movement, experts in industry and CEOs and finance across the economy, Carney said on his way to a cabinet meeting on Tuesday. In a statement, the Prime Minister said that his government's goal in the upcoming review of the Canada-US-Mexico agreement is to secure a strong economic partnership with the United States that creates greater certainty, security, and prosperity for all. The committee, which will meet for the first time on Monday, will be led by Dominic LeBlanc, the minister responsible for Canada-US trade. In a statement, LeBlanc said the committee will help the government stay closely connected to key industrial sectors in Canada as it enters a new economic and security relationship with the US. Canada is strongest when governments, workers, businesses, and industry leaders pull in the same direction. The members of the committee include Candice Lang, President and CEO of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, Darrell White, CEO of the Bank of Montreal, Lisa Raitt, former Conservative cabinet minister, and has some experience, I think, working with CIBC World Banks. Tracy Robinson, President and CEO of the Canadian National Railway. Flavio Volpe remains, thank goodness, President of the Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association. Ron Bedard, President and CEO of the steel manufacturer ArcelorMittal Dofasco. Ken Seitz, President and CEO of the fertilizer giant Nutrien. Dennis Darby, President and CEO at Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters. Lana Payne, National President of Unifor, the union. François Poirier, President and CEO of Calgary-based TC Energy. Émile Cordeau, CEO of AgroPure, the largest dairy cooperative in Canada. Supply management. Luc Thériault, CEO of Pulp and Wood Products and President of Domtar Canada. Okay, some representation from the forestry industry. Magali Picard, President of the Fédération des Travailleurs et Travailleuses du Québec, another union. Jonathan Price, President and CEO at Tech Resources, a mining and resource company based in BC. Surzan Yurkovich, President and CEO of Canfor, a large forest products company based in BC. Michael Harvey, Executive Director of the Canadian Agri-Food Trade Alliance. Tabitha Bull, President and CEO of the Canadian Council for Indigenous Business. Very important. Cameron Bailey, CEO of the Toronto International Film Festival. Here we go. Cameron Bailey of the Toronto International Film Festival, someone from the arts. We have that investment summit coming in September that will be happening at the same time as the Toronto International Film Festival. Will there be some coordination? It seems that there will be indeed here. Wouldn't be a surprise that if that investment summit has the Toronto Film Festival has a invest in Canadian film type summit, or come make your movies here type summit for the industry as a result of that. Valérie Baudouin, expert in U.S. policy and politics at the Université of Quebec. Erin O'Toole, former federal conservative leader. Jean Charest, former progressive conservative leader and liberal premier of Quebec. PJ Agiaguk, former premier of Nunavut. Some more Indigenous representation. And Ralph Goodale, former Liberal finance minister and high commissioner to the UK, who gets his next assignment. Justin Trudeau struck a similar advisory committee during the trilateral negotiations that led to CUSMA during U.S. President Donald Trump's first term in office. The trade agreement is up for review this year. So yes, it seems here that we have, like I said, a renewed committee here. A lot of people might think, yes, the Prime Minister wants to put his own stamp on it, of course. But as we are going into this negotiation, of course, we have a better idea of what it is that we are going for. The Conservatives like to make us believe that there have been no talks or anything of the kind over the last 5 months. The Minister LeBlanc has made it relatively clear that that is indeed not the case. There may not have been meetings in the sense that we're doing these formal things, but there's been lots of talks behind the scenes about what is going on, where things are taking place. it's not like the conversation is completely stopped. There's still some back channel stuff being talked, and it seems that everything here is indeed very things on that front seem to be going well. It would seem. So the minister is going to be leading this committee here to get some expert advice. We have Janice McGregor here of the CBC that has some commentary here about the move to reconfigure the committees. So let's have that for you here, kids and cubs. Sorry, I'm going to have to replace this to make sure we have the right screen. Okay, that does look like it is indeed the right screen now. And let's put it up for you. There you go. This is the CBC's Janice McGregor.
The makeup of House of Commons committees is not standard. It is set at the start of every parliament. The rules say that each party's representation should...
Oh, I'm so sorry, kids and cubs. That is my bad. I thought this was about revamping this committee. That's a comment about revamping the House of Commons committees, which we have already talked about. And I should have presented that quote then if I was going to do that. Sorry, that was I got my wires crossed. So here it says that the LeBlanc was asked on Monday if Canada has an official start date for negotiations, and he didn't offer a specific timeline, but said officials, quote, are engaging on an ongoing basis with their U.S. counterparts. Canada is prepared. We have submitted a number of proposals to the Americans. We are ready to do the work to get a deal very quickly and will certainly not be the source of any delay. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said it was great that O'Toole had been named to the council, but said he wants to see more action on the trade front from the Prime Minister. Quote, what has Mark Carney done really in a year on this? Whine, complain. He hasn't held negotiations in 5 months. The Mexicans are going to be at the table formally with the Americans at any day. The only talks that Mark Carney is doing are YouTube videos, says the master of the YouTube video. Pierre Poilievre also had one other thing to say, and I am so sorry that I have to present him with his voice having said this. But I need to bring you this clip for the reason that there's a lot of times that I hear Pierre Poilievre talk, and I hear Donald Trump all the time. And here is one from Pierre Poilievre that reminds me of this quite a bit. Now, this is from the moment the scrum where he went up the stairs near where the Liberals were about to meet, and causing François-Philippe Champagne to wonder, was he lost? And all the journalists to figure that it was really, really weird that he was there. But this is what Pierre Poilievre had to say in this particular thing. And I want you to take this comment in the context that he is currently on a push to also claim that the Prime Minister is very badly educated in economics.
Do you think that needs to change, that he needs to soften it? The Americans have been clear.
Soften it, just get to work. He said the other day that he was going to stop showboating. Those were his words. And he was going to get serious. Well, a serious Prime Minister a year into this conflict would be able to tell you his plan. I've told you my plan. I've been very detailed in my plan. Nobody knows Mark Carney's plan. Probably not even him. He hasn't even told us whether he wants to renew USMCA. And if he doesn't, okay, tell us how he's going to replace the $600 billion of exports. Tell the 2.6 million Canadians who rely on trade with the US where their jobs are going to come from. So far, he hasn't done any of that. We're a year into this. He was elected on the single promise that he would negotiate a win with the U.S. And since that time, he's been losing. Double the tariffs on steel and aluminum, triple the tariffs on lumber, broadening of tariffs out to other products that weren't formerly covered. And he's done nothing to stop it other than to wave the white flag.
Okay. There's a lot wrong with that statement. There's a lot wrong with that statement in the first place. And you can see here, if Andrew Scheer is making it up as he goes along, so is Pierre Poilievre, right? One of the things I don't understand about Pierre Poilievre, I mean, I know he does it deliberate, but I don't understand how people who support him, is this man definitely needs some Q-tips for his ears and some Visine for his eyes. Because in that clip, he said, the Prime Minister said that he would stop showboating. We showed you that clip. The Prime Minister never said, hey, I've been showboating for the last year or so, but now I'm about to get serious. The Prime Minister was talking specifically about taking back control of the committees because there's been a lot of showboating on the committees on the part of the Conservatives. And maybe the Conservatives are not used to working in a parliament or in committees where there is no showboating or less of it, but they will have to. But Pierre Poilievre heard that and chose to understand the Prime Minister said that he was showboating and he was about to get serious, and not that it's been the Conservatives that are showboating and now it's time for Parliament to get serious. He sees the Prime Minister, all these YouTube videos, but doesn't see his own. He doesn't see any of the work that's been done. He doesn't acknowledge it. He hears everything differently than the way people say it, and he doesn't see anything that everybody else sees that happens to not fit with his narrative in there. This is not a serious, again, this is not a serious response from a serious person. And then in the answer, he says, the Prime Minister has not been able to tell us his plan. The whole reason the Prime Minister enjoys about 65% support is because that's pretty much all he does, is he keeps on telling us his plan over and over and over again, and then adding layers to it, and then checking up with us, and then reporting back to us. And then you got Pierre Poilievre going, I've told you my plan. Pierre Poilievre's plan is not a plan. Pierre Poilievre's plan is negotiate from a position of strength. We need to build all those pipelines and stuff like that so that we have all those other export markets, whatnot. Pierre's it would take 10 to 15 years to get into the position of strength that Pierre says he wants to be in order to be able to even start negotiations with the United States. He does not have a plan. There are no timelines, there's no dates. And then he turns around and says, Mark Carney doesn't know, nobody knows Mark Carney's plan, probably not even him. So now we're getting back again to the Mark Carney is so stupid, right? So disorganized. So literally, and then he finishes it off with saying that all Mark Carney is doing is losing, losing, losing. Saying that he was elected on the single promise that he would negotiate a win with the United States. That's not what he was elected on. He was elected on pivoting our economy away in order from the United States and reducing our dependency to having a plan. Because you can't go into a negotiation and promise that you will get the win. You can aim, you can strive, but you can't promise. There's another party at that table. Trump is learning that with Iran. Yeah, we're going to do this. Iran, yeah, there's only one problem. We have a say on whether or not that happens. Pierre Poilievre seems to live in a world, or wants us to live in an imaginary world, in which we do whatever we want and the United States has no say. And it just doesn't work that way. So, Mark Carney is badly educated in economics, and everything he does leads him to losing, losing, losing. Or, as Donald Trump would call it, he's a very low IQ person and he's a loser. That's what Pierre PoiliOVER is saying here. He's going right into the Trump playbook. Pierre PoiliOVER doesn't have anything to offer here. His resume doesn't match up. His experience doesn't match up. And you had the Prime Minister kind of point that out in one of the ways, that way that the Prime Minister has that seems to be unique to him, with a bit of a smile and a wink. Indicating that I'm not, well, basically asking out loud, what has Pierre PoiliOVER ever negotiated? Really? Other than getting Damien Kurt to give up his seat. Oh, that was not nice. With all of that happening, the United States, turns out yesterday, seems to have indicated that in order for us to be able to access the trade table that it left, that there's a possibility that we might have to pay some type of entry fee to get to the negotiation table. According to Laurence Martin and Fanny Olivier and Daniel Thibault of CBC News, well, actually Radio-Canada, because they broke the story here. The Trump administration is demanding what amounts to, quote, an entry fee from Canada to engage in trade talks towards a revised Canada-United States-Mexico free trade agreement, 4 sources told Radio-Canada. The Americans are setting conditions before negotiations begin, said one high-ranking individual familiar with the matter. 3 sources use the term entry fee to describe concessions the United States administration is seeking before formal trade talks begin. So yes, we understand that we walked away from the table, but we will never admit it, and that you have never left. But we're coming to the table now. We're taking the table, and if you want a seat at it, you have to show up belly down and give us a whole bunch of stuff first, and then we can negotiate. Apparently is the United States position. Yeah, that's which of course had all of us up here laughing in Canadian. Yeah, but no. Yeah, that's not going to be happening. Yeah, the United States going, hey, we're the hottest club in town, everybody wants to get in, but hey, you're going to have to pay a cover charge to come to this party. And the Canadians are like sitting there going, yeah, but no there, buddy. We pre-drank at home and our designated driver has brought our Tragically Hip CD, so we have a party right here in the car. We're good. But have fun. Yeah, there's nothing that says that you are entering a negotiation that screams to the world, I am entering this negotiation very, very weak and desperate, than saying you need to concede a whole bunch of stuff to me before we even get to the negotiating table. Because we don't even bother. We don't want to negotiate these things. Just give them to us, and then we'll start negotiating. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that must be for domestic consumption, because I don't imagine a reality in which the United States could seriously imagine the country that has affected their alcohol sales and their tourism that badly, and that has slowly and quietly rallied the world around to the, yeah, you know what? Screw the U.S. When it comes in, when the U.S. makes a big threat like that, let's call their bluff. and see what happens. And that's not been working well for the United States lately, has it? The U.S. demand was also confirmed by former Quebec Premier Jean Charest, who was appointed Tuesday to the Prime Minister's new Advisory Committee on Canada-U.S. Economic Relations. Quote, Trump wants us to make a lot of concessions before we sit down at the table. Meanwhile, he wouldn't make any. On the U.S. side, there are suggestions that Canada should try to get Trump's attention by making an immediate concession, especially since the president is juggling several major issues right now. However, Canadian sources says they have twice offered concessions to the U.S. administration without receiving anything in return. On the way into a cabinet meeting Wednesday, Carney said the Canadian government has multiple levels of contracts with the U.S. administration that address different trade issues between the two countries. And now, again, I wouldn't say that in reality we received nothing in return. We got Trump to sign that executive order stating that the CUSMA agreement would apply to everything that was under CUSMA, and that he would stick by that. So we did get something. But hey, since Trump is in the business of not recognizing concessions that were made, why should we either? Right? It's not a case of the United States dictates the terms. We have a negotiation. We can come to a mutually successful outcome. It will take some time, and we will take some time, said Mark Carney. And I believe I might have a clip of him stating that precise thing here, Kits and Cubs. So let me see if I can find that for you. There we go. This would be the one.
Should Canada make any more concessions to get to the table with the U.S. and how do you balance them giving you a list? And if you finish that list,
no, there is a well. First thing, we have multiple levels of contact. We work through a series of issues. We understand what some of the what the Americans would call trade irritants or trade issues are. We have some on our side as well. We're well prepared around those issues. We will sit down and work through those issues with the broader approach in the negotiation. We've made some counter proposals, which they're aware, and the time will come to really roll up our sleeves. But ce n'est pas une cas d'avoir un demandeur, un autre supplicant. C'est pas le cas de tout. Like, it's not a case of the United States dictates the terms. We have the negotiation. We can come to a mutually successful outcome. It will take some time, and we will take some time.
So yeah, basically, that rumor is that the United States wants a trade irritant, and there's the Prime Minister just basically saying, yeah, no, we won't be doing that. Not sure what it is that you guys are trying here, but that little thing, that's not going to work with us. So, yeah. But yeah, apparently the United States wants an entry fee because they are such a shining beacon on the hill right now. March 2025, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick compared negotiations with the United States to purchasing a Costco membership. You have to pay before you can shop. Yeah, but at least you agreed to pay before you can shop when you go to Costco, because you know that when you walk into the Costco, the prices are going to be good and that they're going to fulfill the terms of their contract. The United States does not have, under the current leadership, the benefit of that security. The United States brand has been severely damaged. It is a country whose word cannot be taken as solid and firm. So yeah, not sure what they want there. According to former Canadian diplomat Louise Blais, who attended several meetings in Washington last week in her capacity as a strategic advisor to the Canadian Council on International Affairs, the Americans, quote, perceive Canada as unwilling to come to the table. No, we are at the table. We've never left. We're not unwilling to come to the table. We're unwilling to come to the table, having pre-capitulated. And you guys are lazy and you don't want to do the work of negotiating. You just say, give it to me all now, or else, we'll destroy something. And we're at the point, we've heard you say that enough times. and not deliver on your end of the bargain when we signed a deal, and you've enough times we've also seen you threaten a whole bunch of world dire consequences if your demands are not met, only to have you taco. And we know that time is on our side. So that's very cute that you think you got it like that, but no, we won't be doing. We just will not be doing that today. The Canadian government seems to want to keep all its cards close to its chest and not give things away piecemeal to retain all its leverage for a major negotiation, she said. Exactly. What's the point in making concessions? If they amount to nothing, we get nothing for them, and we know that it's all for a deal that the signature will mean nothing. If that's the situation, we are in the perfect situation to say, you know what, no, we need better than that, and we're not going to sign that, and I'm sorry, but you're just not going to get a deal, and you're going to have to go out and explain to the world why it is that you still can't make a deal with a country like Canada, while Canada is making deals with everybody else. If Canada is able to make deals with everybody else every time it goes to another country, sign another MOU, and all that kind of stuff, but can't with you, the world is going to start thinking that the problem is with you. We went to France in March 2025 and reaffirmed the Canada-European Comprehensive Economic Trade Agreement and agreed to build further ties. We went to the UK in March of 2025 and expanded trade through the Canada-UK Trade Continuity Agreement and CPTPP. We went to Vatican City in 2025 on a visit that centered on diplomatic engagement and strengthening bilateral relations. We went to Belgium in June of 2025 and signed a Canada-US security and defense partnership. We went to the Netherlands on that same trip, and we joined a new alliance for defense spending commitments and discussed NATO support for Ukraine. We went to Poland after that and developed a Canada-Poland strategic partnership spanning defense cooperation, energy security, and trade. We went to Germany and signed a critical minerals action plan. And then we're getting ready for the Munich Security Conference, which we couldn't go to because world events took over. We extended Operation Reassurance in Latvia in August of 2025. We went to Mexico in September of 2025. We launched strategic partnership and adopted the Canada-Mexico Action Plan. We're going to be meeting with Mexico again very soon, in April, I think it is. We announced a new economic partnership with Indonesia, the Canada-Indonesia Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. That was in September. Also in September, we went to the UK for the Global Progress Action Summit. But, and during that time, that was the trip that the Prime Minister also ended up going to Australia, and we signed a trade agreement there. We went to Egypt in October for a Middle East Peace Summit in Sharm el-Sheikh, focused on Gaza stabilization, humanitarian relief, and regional diplomacy. We pushed forward negotiations toward a Canada-ASEAN free trade agreement and expanded Indo-Pacific economic engagement, where approximately 10% of Canadian exports currently go, and is Canada's second biggest trading partner, making up $270 billion in merchandise trade. We signed a letter of intent for investment in liquefied natural gas, nuclear, renewable energy, and oil with Malaysia. We're making progress towards ratifying a Canada-ASEAN free trade agreement and also free trade agreement specifically with the Philippines and Thailand. Then he went to Singapore to start seeing if there's anything from the Sovereign Wealth Fund over there that could be helping, and they have been invited to that summit. Then he went to South Korea to the APEC summit to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Canada-Korea Free Trade Agreement, and they signed a defense agreement and memorandum of understanding there. Then he went to the Arab Emirates and got a commitment of $70 billion in investment, apparently something that Pierre missed that. In return, Carney set up representatives for Canada's pension funds with $2 trillion in capital to visit the UAE. He also announced $1 billion project for expansion in mining in Canada's critical mineral sector. Then he went to South Africa for the G20 summit. And then on and on and on. There was that trip to China where we got tariffs reduced on canola seed to 15%. And China agreed to lift discriminatory tariffs on lobster, peas, canola meal, crab, and other agricultural products. And we made the deal that could lead to increased manufacturing in Canada, particularly with EV vehicles. Then we went to Qatar and launched negotiations for an investment treaty to establish new Economic Cooperation Commission. That was in January for this year, announcing future partnerships in trade, investment, energy and mining, agriculture, technology, and AI. Then we went to Switzerland, where we made that Davos speech. Then we went to India, where we signed a $2.6 billion long-term uranium supply deal, where Saskatoon-based Cameco will supply India with 22 million pounds of uranium over 9 years. There was an announcement that there would be a comprehensive economic partnership agreement between the two countries. Then, of course, there was Australia, where we signed an MOU to expand investment between Australia and Canada through Canada pension funds and Australian superannuation funds. Then we went to Japan. There was a comprehensive strategic partnership spanning trade and defense cooperation and cybersecurity and supply chains. That's a lot of deals. That's a lot of work being done. Pierre doesn't recognize any of it. We have options. That's the leverage that we're building for ourselves. We're negotiating all these other deals, and now we're coming back to the United States and saying, well, all these people want what we have. Is it still the case that we don't have anything that you want? Because if that's the case, then okay, let's roll this over and we'll come back and meet again a year from now. And in that year, we'll keep on going, talking to people who want what we've got. Thanks. So there you go. And in one last little bit, that shows that we are serious here. And it would seem that we're also playing the game here, that the United States is asking for some entry fees. We have some entry fees of our own. It would seem that the Prime Minister has sent the message that while you want us to make some concessions before we can get at the table, we're telling you, United States, we understand that your trade representative said that the sectoral tariffs are not going to be up for negotiation, that there's going to be no movement on that. If there's going to be no movement on that, there's no point in us showing up at the table. Yeah, it turns out that we have a little pressure of our own that we can apply. Another way that we are applying a little pressure on our own is, according to the Globe and Mail here, there's another bloc of nations with whom we are currently in negotiations. The EU, after being in negotiations with that bloc for over 20 years, not too long ago, signed a deal. And soon it will be our turn to do so. And that is with the Mercosur group of nations. And once again, the computer here is not being cooperative with me when it comes to finding that article and bringing it up. I'm still getting that screen of eternal patience. So let me see, kits and cubs, if I can bring it up via my phone for you so that I can bring you this last bit of news for today's show. Here. Right. And it is not working on my phone either. So it must be the news site itself that is down. So I'm not sure I can bring you that information here. Let me see if I can find it maybe from another publication that indicates here. Let's do Reuters. There we go. According to Reuters here, it says, well, that's very thin. I may have to find something else. Canadian trade negotiators working on a free trade agreement with Mercosur, the South American trading bloc, will travel to Brasilia next week. Canada's International Trade Minister Maninder Sidhu told reporters in Ottawa on Tuesday. Sidhu said the deal is expected to be signed by the autumn. Okay, that's interesting here. Let's see here. I can BNN Bloomberg from the Canadian press. This will help here. 8 years, a Brazilian official says an agreement is on track to be signed by the end of the year. Paula Barbosa, director for extra-regional negotiations and economic governance at Brazil's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, told the Canadian press the talks have been propelled by a political push as Canada and other nations work to diversify their trade. Quote, I think we both have these negotiations as a priority for our governments and we are keen to close them as quick as possible, she said in an interview. Canada launched negotiations on a free trade agreement with the South American trading bloc in 2018. The Mercosur bloc includes Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay. The Government of Canada website says Mercosur represents a GDP of over US $3 trillion and a population of 282 million. It says Canada's merchandise trade with Mercosur reached $15.8 billion in 2024, with Canada's exports valued at $3.1 billion and imports valued at $12.8 billion. The website says a free trade agreement with Mercosur could reduce tariffs on Canada's automotives, information and communications technology, industrial machinery, chemicals and plastics, and forestry exports by up to 35%. Other industries that could see lower tariffs include medical goods, pharmaceuticals, and aluminium. Canada's federal government has not responded to multiple requests for comment on trade negotiations. While they have been continuing for several years, Barbosa says there's now political interest in moving things along. Barbosa said China has become a dominant trading partner for the Mercosur bloc, and that's important to diversify. Earlier this year, Mercosur and the European Union signed a landmark free trade agreement. Canada, meanwhile, is actively looking to diversify its trade in response to tariffs and threats from U.S. President Donald Trump. I think the priority on rebalancing trade accounts is increasing, said Barbosa. Both parties think it's important to diversify not only providers, but different destinations as well. Barbosa said negotiations with Canada took place in Brazil in February, and another round is planned for Brazil this month. In May, she said negotiations are set to take place in Canada. Then we are going to see where we are, she said. If not, we are going to continue in June, July, whenever it's possible. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said earlier this year that Prime Minister Mark Carney accepted an invitation to visit Brazil in April. Barbosa said she does not have confirmation yet on when that visit might take place. Fen Osler-Hampson, a professor of international affairs at Carleton University, said Canada is pursuing the free trade agreement as part of Carney's efforts to diversify trade. He said it's also being done to improve access to the largest market in South America and give Canadian farms a better chance to compete against others like the Chinese and the Europeans who are already active in that market. There's obviously potential to fairly significantly increase our trade, and particularly exports to the region, he said, adding that there are obstacles to a deal such as environmental concerns. When your biggest market is no longer as accessible as it used to be, you look for alternatives, and so I think there's a political imperative there. Hampson said the beneficiaries would be producers of fertilizers, grains, forestry, and processed foods. He added that Canada already has a pretty healthy trade in machinery and aircraft parts, but there's opportunity for expansion. One sector that could be potentially important because getting hit pretty hard by tariffs is the auto parts sector, he said. So a free trade agreement would allow us to diversify beyond the U.S. market. On the services side, Hampson said Canada also has a lot of small and medium-sized enterprises that provide engineering, consulting, and mining services and would benefit from access to this market. The flip side of that is whenever you have a free trade agreement, some sectors here at home are likely to face greater competition. And that's true in beef, poultry, some processed foods, as well as manufacturing. Keith Curry, president of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture, said in an email that the organization has, quote, serious concerns about Canada re-engaging in a free trade agreement with the Mercosur bloc. Mercosur countries benefit from significant scale, lower production costs, and differing regulatory and environmental approaches compared to Canada, he said. So on this, you have to remember, again, in the global overall context of the United States claiming that this hemisphere is theirs, Canada is about to meet with representatives from Mexico in April, the Mercosur nations in April, and also specifically the Brazilian president in April. all with a view to advance trade and sign deals and whatnot to show that the United States doesn't have the whole hemisphere. We are literally pushing back against that narrative with this. And again, building more leverage for ourselves within the Americas itself. So there you go, kids and cubs. Lots of moving pieces, lots of it going on. Of course, as you can see, it made for a long show, and I still have a whole lot more to tell you about other stuff. But I'm not going to subject you to all of that today, kids and cubs. But yeah, as you can see, it's time to get serious, and we are indeed getting serious. We are mobilizing everything that we have. The United States, a little bit in a desperate situation, trying to puff its chest and show up its bravado and American exceptionalism. We are so great that you need to offer us concessions before we even come to the table, pay tribute to Donald Trump. And that's not going to happen here. Canada will not do that. And because we do have a prime minister who is willing to walk away from the table. Not just say he's willing to do it, but to do it if the deal is not good enough. And I think the Americans know that. So from this point on, as should have been the case all along, but whatever statements that is coming from the United States, because once again, Canada is not negotiated in public, but the United States is. And that negotiation is for domestic consumption. Right. And when I say domestic consumption, for the people that support Donald Trump in the United States and for the people in Canada who support him as well. That's for them. But Donald Trump and the White House are not a reliable source for any information whatsoever. So, and again, you just have to remember Carolyn Levitt at the podium going, Canada caved when we did the digital service tax thing. So, yes, here we are a few months after that digital service tax thing. And yeah, boy, have we ever caved, eh? We've caved so much that you're demanding pre-concessions before you even come to the table because you know you're not going to get them otherwise. The United States is in a weak position. The economy is not going well. The war on Iran is not going very well. Its attempt to puff its chest to take over Greenland was met with resistance. His approval ratings are at 30% in the United States. He keeps on losing elections. The special district, the redistricting referendum in the United States in Virginia, that passed. So he didn't get his win there. And these numbers are not going to get better for him because Iran is in the same situation as Canada. They realize that Trump is weak and that they do not need to come to the table as quickly as Trump wants, or do not need to come to the table with pre-concessions. In fact, we can even see that Trump did give in on this one because when it was claimed that the ceasefire was supposed to extend to Lebanon, and it didn't. A couple of days later, it did start to extend to Lebanon. Iran did get what it wanted. And then Trump's latest deadline, after which it was supposed to be a Bridge and Power Day again, well, now his ceasefire has been extended indefinitely, and I still don't know what Iran has conceded to the Trump administration in order to get that to happen. But yeah, that situation is going to persist because every time Trump is offered an exit ramp, rather than just gracefully taking the exit ramp and taking it, he comes up with a chest bravado puffing thing, says, you need to give me something else to claim that I've won. And says, listen, we're already giving you this. Take the W and walk away. And he doesn't seem to have the ability to do that. So this is the guy that we're dealing with, and he's getting more erratic and he's just saying things. So if we just let him run off at the mouth, I'm not sure how things are going to go well for him in this negotiation. We eventually, we seem to have the upper hand unless Trump decides to do something absolutely, completely ridiculous here. But we just have to be patient and say, no, sorry, that's not going to work out for us in the most respectful tone that we can over and over and over again until we get something that does work out for us. And then we will have a deal. But if we don't have a deal, it's not going to be the end of the world, because we still have CUSMA for the next 10 years that will just go into review state. And during that time, we will expand our business with the rest of the world. But there's no point in us going to that table ready to make concessions, especially without getting anything back and without having any assurances whatsoever that whatever deal we sign will be respected. Because once you make a concession, it's impossible to claw it back. So why make them? The Prime Minister might actually have been advising us by doing that forward guidance video, start preparing the terrain for the fact that there might not be no deal. There might not be a deal other than the one that we have now with the United States going forward. And that we're fine with that. Stay tuned, kids and cubs. It's going to be an interesting ride. All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do. And kids and cubs, when you do, if you could share a little word about why it is our content resonates with you, we would be most grateful for that, because that's advertising we cannot buy. If you would like to help us in other ways, kids and cubs, please scan this QR code, which will bring you to our YouTube page if you're not there already, and so that you can smash with our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. It helps us with the algorithm when you do. So thank you so much. And if you are happening to watch us on your Android, and not live, but afterwards, and you happen to see the opportunity to offer us some hype points, please do, because that helps smaller broadcasters like ourselves get increased attention. So we thank you for that. If you would like to support us in other ways, kids and cubs, let's say financially, because we do incur some costs to bring this show to you, that QR code will bring you to our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, where you can make a donation to the Beaver Lodge to help us with the costs that we incur to bring this show to you, subscription fees, internet fees, all that type of stuff. We would be very great, especially since we're independent now and our costs have gone up. So we definitely would appreciate your support. Our coffee page allows you to make a one-time donation or a recurring monthly donation, and we get about 95% to 97% of your donation when you donate that way. So please throw a couple of loonies or toonies into our jar at the Emergency Hydration Fund, because a moist beaver is a very happy beaver. Ooh. We also have ways that you can donate via YouTube. If you're watching, we have stickers and super chat donations and memberships. If you can buy one, thank you so much for that. We are very grateful. And of course, kids and cubs, if you are doing the Buy Canadian thing and don't not want any USC Tech Bros to get a share of your money, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address, and you can send us a direct bank transfer there. And we get 100% of your donation, as there are no service fees. Now, if you are not able to send us any money, please send money. But if you're not able to send us any money, please do not worry, because the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter the most to us. And we are very grateful that you are here and that you give some of it to us. And we want to hear from you regardless. So please use our email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, to let us know what you think about the show, good, bad, or ugly. We love compliments and we love constructive critique, so long as it is constructive and intended to be kind. Thank you so much for it. Everything makes the show better. And of course, we want your suggestions as to who you would like as a guest on our show for our interview project series. And of course, if you have some questions about the show or about politics that you would like us to explore, or some themes for a show you would like us to explore, please send them to us. We are very happy to take your requests. If kids and cubs, you would like to reach us on our other socials, at True Eager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, at True Eager on the Jitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook. Of course, we have the Damn Fam Discord, the Damn Fam Instagram run by Kit Uncover. We have our Substack, it's called Beaver Bites. Lots of places where you can interact with us and keep the conversation going, especially with the Damn Fam on the Discord. When we don't have a show going on, they're a great group of people. So please check that out. All of that. Oh, somebody scanned the QR code. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, thank you. please, kids and cubs, do go over there and write to us. And remember our hashtags: kids who cook if you are preparing something yummy, kids who cultivate if you are gardening. And to give us some tips, we bought a couple of extra things. Bought a berry bush. I wanted black currant, and I think we ended up getting Jostonberry or something like that. I can't remember the name of it, which is supposed to be a mix between a black currant and a gooseberry, I think it is. We bought some pansies as well to plant and make things a little pretty. And I think we bought something else. I can't remember off the top of my head now, but a couple of extra things for planting, which we will do today because it's supposed to be a nice day. So very excited about that. And of course, kids who craft, if you happen to be creative and making something absolutely fantastic, musical, writing, you have a poem, you knit, you crochet, you paint, all of that, send it to us. And of course, your good news, because sometimes the doom scrolling gets a little much, and we take a little break and we read some of your good news, and it gives us the perfect pick-me-up because it adds sunshine to our day. Just like you celebrate and share in our joy, we like to celebrate and share in yours. So please send us your good news. Because democracy is something that you do, kids and cubs, and I see that 2 people scanned the QR code, so thank you so much. Because democracy is something that you do, the 24th, tomorrow is the last day to participate in the public consultations for the high-speed rail project Alto Train. You go to altotrain.ca/en/public-consultation, and there you can let your views be known. If you are in British Columbia, please know that it's time to soon start voting for the leader of the BC Conservative Party. If you have your membership, it's too late to get one now. However, membership's closed on the 18th. However, pardon me. However, the leadership vote is scheduled for May 30th with ballots sent to members beginning on May 9th. So please watch for your ballots and make sure you get them on time. I'm sorry, I'm choking on them. Please excuse me. I think I had started to breathe in before I had fully breathed out and triggered some kind of weird reflex. That's the best I can figure it out. But yes, yeah, berry shrubs. You should be able to make jam. Elderberry is a nice shrub that brings birds too. Oh, thank you, Kit Saucy. Good to know. For that bush, it said that it worked better if you bought 2 and have them. It would be more productive and have them one next to each other. But we didn't have any room for a second bush, so we're hoping that if we place it close to a raspberry bush, maybe that will help. Who knows? A third person's getting the QR code. Thank you so much, kids and cubs. Wow, so much love today. Thank you. Really, really appreciate it. So I think that's all I got. Oh yes, and of course the 25th. And if you live in Ontario, mass protests province-wide against the Ford government. So please do show up and vote for that, and show up for that. And I forgot to mention yesterday when I was talking about the food surveillance stuff with Abby Lewis, and it was somebody in the chat who stated it, and I saw it only after the fact. But yeah, Ontario voted against something that would have addressed the issue. So it wasn't only that Doug Ford was against it in terms of in principle, but it was subject to a vote, and it was voted down. According to the Ontario NDP here, April 20th, Merritt Styles' motion to ban the predatory practice of surveillance pricing in Ontario was voted down by Doug Ford government. These are the facts of our elected officials. These are the faces of our elected officials who voted to side with corporations over working people. Remember them. They've got the list of all of them here in picture on their post. Shameful. The Manitoba NDP government passed a similar bill. The Saskatchewan NDP is proposing it, and Canada's NDP proposed it before it was shut down by the federal Liberals. And now the Ontario NDP's motion was defeated. It's clear the NDP is the only party fighting to make life more affordable for people. More to come. So yeah, I was hoping to find the vote total I think it was like 50 something votes to something votes, if I'm not mistaken. But it was voted. So not only does Doug Ontario Premier not support a ban on surveillance pricing, but is putting his where his mouth is on that by voting against a move to try to rein that in. Another quick little bit of news before we go, kids and cubs, that you need to be aware of living in British Columbia. Wildfire season has started all. BC Wildfire Services said that 5 fires are burning out of control in the province, with 4 of them having started yesterday, including a fire southwest of Grand Forks in BC's southern interior. The Provincial Wildfire Agency says that 56 wildfires have sparked in BC, and 93% of them are caused by human activity. And we also have some activity in the United States in the southeast, with fires burning along Georgia's coast, where fire officials say the weather has been exceptionally dry and greater than 83 square kilometers have been burned, and Jacksonville, Florida, where greater than 50 homes have been destroyed. Crews are fighting more than 130 wildfires that have burned some 101 square kilometers there. So April 23rd, and wildfire season has already started. So please, again, make sure that you listen to all instructions and that you have your emergency preparedness all taken care of in case you need to go quickly. Okay, kids and cubs, it could be a tough world out there. Oh, words of wisdom. I didn't give you any words of wisdom today. Those are my words of wisdom right there. If you're in BC, listen to all the instructions and then make sure that you have your emergency preparedness kits ready so that you can make a fast escape should that be the case. And that's going to be standing words of wisdom for the entire of the summer as a wildfire season keeps on getting more damaging and longer and more intense year after year. It could be a tough world out there, kids and cubs, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And at the count of 3, can I please have you say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock. I can't believe we topped 3 hours today. I did not intend to go that long. But I guess there was just a lot of news about being serious and what's going on with what's going to be happening henceforth with committees and with trade. And I needed to get it out. But wow. I didn't, when I started the show, I didn't think I had that much, to be totally honest. But there you go. All right. At the count of 3, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, and 3. Let's hear it. Oh, that is good stuff. My lovelies. How can I resist you when you ask so nicely? Here's a little cock-a-doodle-doo just for you. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. I've talked enough for today, kids and cubs, so I'm just going to say amour et bisous, and we will see you tomorrow.